Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. We're back with another community interview. This time we've got Okoii. How you doing, dude?
Oh, good. Snapped right into that.
Yeah.
Damn.
But yeah, we're going to be doing one of these. Obviously, Okoii doesn't have a camera, so I'll probably use like a dancing ogre in his section on Discord. I mean, that works, right?
Yeah, that's thematic.
But yeah, how are you doing anyway?
I'm good. I'm good. Just, I think it just disgruntled as everyone else, with the circumstances, but I'm not bad.
Yeah, and I see that you've been moving a little bit away from Total War whilst the drama's happening and just doing your own thing.
Yeah, essentially, when when the Shadows of Change got launched, I didn't have much. I was my biggest because I'm obviously into the dumb stuff, just the instant gratification units and stuff. So when I was hoping for Monkey King,
Yeah.
I saw a lot of potential for a really unique guy there. Other than that, like, I'm not hugely invested in Kislev or Siege that much, but I was hyped for Monkey King. Still, a bit disappointed that didn't happen. But yeah, so I immediately wasn't that interested in the DLC. Then when everything started kicking off, all the stuff started snowballing, and then out of nowhere, well, not out of nowhere. I'd been waiting for it for 3 years with the beta access, but BG3 launched. I just thought sort of like threw my hat in the ring for that. And I was gonna make content on it regardless of how successful it was, and luckily for me it sort of took off like crazy, which came at exactly the right time with all this CA related business.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you were smart, honestly, to pivot, because it's been nothing but stressful.
Yeah.
I mean, for us that were covering it on the day, obviously we had that statement literally go 5 minutes before the embargo dropped, which was less than ideal, which, always fun when you get blindsided. But Baldur's Gate seems to be going really well for you, though, right?
Yeah, definitely. Again, I had no idea how that it was going to take off so much. It's sort of a little daunting almost, like, because I ended up making a part 2 because it did so well, but because people I got so many comments asking for more.
No, it was really funny. I really enjoyed your video, man.
Thanks. But it's when something takes off that much, it's like, I imagine it's what executives and like movie makers and directors deal with when like a movie does super well. Then you have to like follow it with a sequel, and everyone knows it's going to be slightly worse than the original. It just always is. Like, there's never been a sequel that's better than the first one. Almost never. Except for I guess Lord of the Rings, but they were all made at the same time and whatever.
So I got to ask, how long did that first one take? Because that's a lot of barrels, man. Like,
so because I obviously I love the game, so I was just playing the absolute crap out of it. I already have like 600 hours. I put about 400 in between launch and now, which is like it's obviously a hugely time-consuming game. There's so much to do. It's like such an extensive game that. But yeah, fine. I basically just scrubbed because I'd already put like 90 hours into the early access.
Okay, yeah.
Which was just Act 1, so I knew all of Act 1 like the back of my hand almost, except for some changes that have been done for full release. So I just went basically memorized where all the barrels were mostly, and then just scrounged for every little explosive I could, and then yeah.
Honestly, it was it was interesting to see. I think that was because I didn't even think of that. Like, I've been playing as a pure murder hobo recently, and it's like I wouldn't even thought of that. Like, holy crap! There was just so many explosions. It was beautiful, man.
Yeah, it carries over from Div 2, like, which I think obviously a ton of people have played, which Divinity Original Sin 2, which is Larian's like previous major release, I think, that they and then that had the same battlemancy in the community calls it, so it's like I was already pretty versed in the ways of battlemancy.
Okay, fair. So yeah, I didn't play Divinity. I think when that came out, it was during the time of like a WoW expansion that was super heavy into. So like when I get into WoW, I don't see sunlight, man. It's a really bad addiction.
yeah. I sort of dipped back in to re-experience Wrath of the Lich King, because that's about when I jumped ship. I think most people did. I played a bit of Cataclysm, and then when they dropped the Kung Fu Panda shit, I just bailed. You know, so a lot of people liked it. I was just a bit like, it already hit its zenith for me, you know. But
Hot take, I'm gonna say Pandaria was a really good expansion though. Like,
really,
yeah, the
I don't
story
really like
writing
the
was
look of
great.
it.
Like
Yeah.
visually, it was pretty. Story writing was great. Then again, I'm a massive Garrosh fan, so like I liked him going full fucking Hellscream, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And it looks like there is something that might, like, there's rumors that I might be getting back into WoW again because like there's rumors about like Classic Plus happening, and it's like if we could have
Classic
old
Plus.
school, yeah, like old school vanilla, and then just expanding from there. With Chris Metzen has just returned as a director too, so it's like,
Oh, with new
ooh,
lore, yeah.
yeah,
Right? Yeah. I heard about that. That if his writing still holds up, so that could be really cool. Like I never played much Classic. I got into the game right as Burning Crusade released for the first time. Like,
well, that was
so I
his writing
just
too.
got- Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, but like I missed that original. You know, never played vanilla. You know,
Right.
so but yeah, I've always just been played the same, just pretty much just Wrath of the Lich King, then Wrath of the Lich King private servers, and then re-experiencing Wrath of the Lich King again on Classic, and I just got completely sucked into it for like 3 months, and I just had to bail. It starts to like it, because I obviously, you know, working from home, working and
Yeah.
everything, you just procrastinate too much, you know.
That's been my issue, yeah. So I've been looking at the whole thing, and I'm like, realistically, if Classic Plus does come out, can I afford to play this? Like, because I will lose my life. I will lose it more than I do with Total War, that's for sure. If Metzen is in charge, yeah, like, holy crap.
Yeah, that's a good thing for Total War. Like, do you remember the last time you were truly sucked into a Total War game? You know, like just, you know, because like the previous, like I remember discovering Rome 1 as a kid.
Yeah.
And because I tried Shogun 1 and that weird polygonal side 2D thing, just I couldn't get to grips with. I was too young, I think. Whatever. Rome 1 came around, and I just got obsessed with it. Like, just got me to like history and all sorts of stuff, and I just was completely obsessed with that game. And then Medieval 2 and stuff. Like, do you remember the last Total War that you were like fully sucked into?
Well, honestly, Warhammer 3 when Immortal Empires got released.
Yeah.
Chaos Dwarfs, I had a lot of fun. Dude, I played so much Chaos Dwarfs, I physically got ill on stream because I
Yeah.
was doing,
Yeah.
16 hours or something non-stop. But, like, it was fun for me. I love those embargoes when I'm having fun.
Yeah.
But if we're not counting Warhammer, Med 2.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like because I don't know, maybe it's just like that childlike wonderment thing of diving in. I think when the Immortal Empires hit, yes, you get access to all these lords, but I got a little bit into each campaign. I was like, it's kind of the same. Like I've already done, it's 20, 30 hour campaigns with each of them all throughout Warhammer 1 and 2, and then now in 3, and it just sort of, having the whole map. I don't really do long-term campaigns. That much. I always get burnt out. You start snowballing, you get too strong, even on the hottest difficulty, and then it's just auto-resolve after auto-resolve, and I start to get burnt out,
Yeah, so I normally play around 400 turns for a campaign.
Oh my god.
Well, I do
Wow.
them on stream, and I love to chat to my community, so it's pretty easy for me to get sucked in, right?
Yeah. No,
But-
yeah, that's true.
And honestly, I don't mind, like, again, when Chaos Dwarfs came out, that felt fresh to me. So after, like, the wonder of Immortal Empires had died out, Chaos Dwarfs came out, I'm like, yes, man. So,
Yeah.
and, like, that's why I've been so happy with DLCs, but then obviously we go to a DLC that just nobody really wanted because it wasn't worth the money, and that killed off the enjoyment for me. And I must say, like, I like many other creators, are probably playing Total War Warhammer 3 less.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I got it. Let me check, because this is gonna be a bad figure, but I haven't launched it since September 18th.
Jeez, wow, we're
I
on
just,
October 25th.
Yeah, I just like every time I think about launching it up, I'm like, I know that if I start a campaign, even on campaigns that I love, like my favorite campaign in all of, I would say 1, 2, and 3 at this point is probably Scragg's campaign, which is like people agree it's like a reasonably good campaign. He's in a good location, has reasonable mechanics and stuff, but just obviously as an ogre main, like just loving their lore and everything, it's like perfect for me.
Yeah.
But an underrated campaign diplomacy wise too, because he gets diplomacy buffs. and movement range buffs, and you can kind of give settlements to factions to get long-term military allies, which is awesome. Being able to join whoever you want, stuff. I forgot why I went on this tangent.
Once you start talking about ogres, you start getting starry-eyed, don't you?
Yeah. No, it was. Why did I go off that tangent?
Not playing Warhammer 3.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Like, I wanted to get back in with this most recent DLC, and I even started working on 19 Crow Men.
Oh wow!
Like the chubby little crow guys, because they were drastically underrated. I did some PvP battles against a couple of content creators, and immediately like these things are outperforming insanely, like getting hundreds of kills, like and stuff, and like they would make a ridiculous doom stack, and they've sort of still been slept on, but like just all the funk around Total War stuff, like I think like player numbers are down, viewership is down for content creators.
Yeah, everything is really down. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a, you know, I don't know. It's just a hampering thing for wanting, feeling motivated to do content creation.
Yeah,
when you're not enjoying it,
That's a big thing. I don't think, because I get a lot of viewers going, why aren't you covering this? Why aren't you covering that? And it's like, it's motivation, because we need to feel motivated for it. It's not just like viewer numbers, though it does help, because obviously that's, monetary gain and so on. But it's also the case of, if everyone's really pessimistic in the comment section about other stuff relating to Total War, it does affect us, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, I knew that if anybody, because you'd see it at other people's chats and stuff on the other live streams, like the chat is just always talking about like the relevant sort of stuff around CA at the moment.
Yeah.
Sort of a weird black cloud hanging over everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does suck. I mean, I tried to play some other games on stream, and it was like, it always going back to Total War in terms of like the conversations. I don't want to do this, man. So I just stopped streaming, and every now and then I'm streaming now on Twitch just for like if there's an old world reveal or something, because that's something that I can be super excited about, and I could easily ignore chat's constant mention of Total War if that's the case. And it does suck from a creator's point of view as much as it does from a fan's point of view, because obviously we love this game. We wouldn't be covering it if we didn't. But right now everything seems quiet. We're getting a little bit more communication from devs on the public forums and stuff, which I think is great. But it feels like it's reactionary rather than wanting to,
Yeah, that feels like that'd be something that would just win me so much favor back with them. Just if they were, talking to them community like, yeah, this sucks, this situation blows, we messed this up.
Yeah, they'll never admit that they're wrong.
If they were super transparent, or at least addressed it kind of without obviously making that situation 10 times worse by threatening everyone.
Yeah, I know, man. Fucking hell. What a statement. I mean, what a way to shoot yourself in the foot, right? Like,
it's the veiled nature of it is what made me laugh, because if he'd have just come out and said, it's expensive, buy it or don't, get the fuck out, everybody would have been like, all right, you know what? I respect that, actually. They could have been so much more aggressive with it, and it would have been, people would have been weirdly fine with it, I imagine.
Yeah, because, I mean, everything comes down to communication. If you start using the whole thing of, here's Warhammer 3, if you don't like it, I'm going to shoot it. Like that's...
Yeah. It's... The memes that came out of it were great, though.
Oh, yeah.
Almost made it worth it. For some of them.
I was, I'd be trolling for the Reddit, just laughing my ass off, going,
yeah,
I shouldn't be laughing, but it is the case that if you don't laugh, all you can do is be angry, and I don't want to stay angry,
Yeah.
It's just, it is weird.
It's the only good thing to come out of these things is like all the memes, because it just shows how funny the community is.
I think CA didn't plan ahead with that statement, because they should have. I think they forgot that I think they thought that we forgot about Three Kingdoms, like...
That was such an odd pull for that game, because I really like Three Kingdoms.
Same.
I'm a big, huge fan of that game. I love, read the Three Kingdoms book, the Romance of the Three Kingdoms book when I was a kid. Loved the lore, played a ton of Dynasty Wars games and Okoii spin-offs and stuff. love the universe, love the like everything, whatever. I actually have, have stake in it and understand and know all the characters and stuff. So
Yeah.
maybe maybe I'm biased, but the game itself, except for the Cav being broken OP and stuff like that. That's a thing as well. Like the engine for that game works fine in my opinion.
Yeah.
With some tweaks and stuff. And although it does suffer from a lot of the similar issues from the Total War series, I wouldn't be super mad if we saw another historical game come out of that engine.
Yeah.
Obviously, they need to work on something new, hopefully, ideally. But if they have to work with previous engines, I think the best thing outside of Warhammer, engine-wise, has been 3K for me personally.
No, I
like the
completely
cab
agree.
charge is being amazing. Like imagine Med 3 on that engine, extreme, heavy cab plowing through infantry, jack up all the morale models for the infantry and stuff. Like the combat was fine.
The diplomacy system was for me the biggest thing.
Yeah, the diplomacy was amazing. The maps were beautiful. Like the volumetric effects on the maps were good. I think they carried that over into Warhammer 3 as well. Like that sort of boundless size thing going on with the maps.
Yeah.
Like a really underrated game in my opinion.
Yeah, honestly, like I feel like the problem with Three Kingdoms was first the DLC was in the wrong order, which is very obvious, and then they only started to get the DLC done right around Fates Divided and the non-mon sections. And it's like if you guys would have gone with that quality, Three Kingdoms would have probably had higher player numbers than Warhammer. Because
imagine if it released the best, the most loved ones first, like the obvious Yellow Turban expansion.
Yeah.
And then following that, the non-mon expansion, like a new race and stuff like that.
Well, they wouldn't do non-mon next.
Not new race, but yeah.
They wouldn't, because they'd have to go by the story. If they would have gone through the story, like Yellow Turban, non-mon, then go with the whole. I think Yuan Shu does some fuckery there, doesn't he? Declare himself emperor, and then he teams up with Lu Bu and all this. I love that history from that. There's so much fuckery. It's amazing.
Yeah, the characters and political intrigue and all of the just the inner workings of all the factions and big named people. Like especially in Romance of the Three Kingdoms, where they're romanticizing these characters, like Lu Bu being this invincible like Chad guy, this just army killing Chad.
Oh yeah, didn't the book say that he takes like 4 volleys of arrows and nothing hurts him?
Yeah, like he a guy worth 1,000 men or whatever.
Yeah.
Really good lore, but yeah, fucking wait, what? God damn it! I keep getting off on tangents to forget what I was talking about.
No, it's fine. You ran, man. These community interviews is not just about Warhammer; it's about everything. And obviously, Three Kingdoms is a big thing because people still felt pissed off about the loss of Three Kingdoms, despite the fact that CA tried to put the corpse under a rug, and it is a good game, man. It is a very good game.
That the future of Total War.
that
made me. Some of the questionable decisions have made me like verbally laugh, especially with the community's response. Like immediately, the comments were just like the future of Total War. We're ending total. Ending 3K. I mean, like. The complete opposite of what you meant to say. Yeah,
it is. It was the way I saw it is like because I honestly believe that there's no Three Kingdoms 2 in development. I honestly believe that was never an option, and they just did that video to kind of shut everyone up. What really pissed me off about it is they put like frontline staff members in that video, right, and made them the target because you put average developers in there, you're making them the fucking target, man.
Yeah, seems like that's a consistent issue. Like the developers being blamed for issues stemming from the upper management and the bad decisions, being sent down from up there.
Yeah. It's a weird thing because you'd think how like CA is like 30 years old now or more, right?
Yeah, I think so. At least minimum it's like what 1997 is like the first game that I remember them releasing.
I think they've been going on since like I think they founded in the 80s though, something like that.
No. Oh damn, they're like 40 years old then. Yeah, they're titans in the industry in terms of like how long they've been around. I when it, like my first the oldest game that I know of them that I played was like Shogun 1 though, like the start of the Total War series I think.
Yeah, they did a few games prior to Total War, and my reasoning of saying that is like. if you've been around for a certain amount of time, you'd think that you'd learn. Obviously, there's other companies that consistently make those mistakes, even though they've been around either longer or they're frankly bigger. I mean, Blizzard.
Yeah, my God. It might be stem from the fact that these companies are so huge and there's so many people involved, but chiefly there's people involved that know nothing about video games, which I think is the biggest issue. They're just corporate money men. They're trying to make money, so they're trying to leverage the position to get as much money as possible, make as much money as possible, and get get as rich as possible. So, and they don't really care about the actual games themselves, the longevity of that. Just money in the short term kind of thing.
But
the
worrying thing is because like you see companies that, I mean, every business wants to make cash. It makes sense, right?
Yeah, of course.
But then you get really good companies like Larry and I think have kind of shown everyone that you can be money oriented but still provide a really good game, right?
Yeah, and plus it's very obvious from them that it is a passion project.
Yeah.
You know? It's being made with a lot of love by people that want to make a good game, that played their game, and you know, like, have tried to make something that they truly enjoy, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas you just don't get that from a lot of other game devs.
It kind of feels a little bit like a lot of these devs, like the bigger companies and obviously companies that we've worked with, have kind of lost the passion a bit, which sucks because, I mean, Warhammer 3 was supposed to be like the big thing, right? Like for all of us. And it started off bad. It should have been delayed again. It's very obvious, and I think every creator unanimously agrees with that. And then we got to Immortal Empires, which took 6 months, by the way, you know, like 6 months from launch.
Forget about the timeline sometimes, the amount of stuff that's actually happened, but they genuinely, I think if they'd have just delayed Immortal Empires and just knuckled down and worked on it as hard as possible for a good, you know, like even if they delayed it for another year, you know, Warhammer 3 for another year past that point, as long as it was good on launch, they would have retained so many more players and so much more interest, I think, than putting it out in a rough state and then slowly making it, you know, better.
Thing is,
at least playable.
They couldn't have delayed it because they delayed it once and they needed to get something out for the financial year. I'm assuming, obviously, that would have been Sega putting pressure on. It's just, if that's the case, instead of calling it a launch, why didn't they just release under early access, right?
Yeah.
And it would have at least brought some favor with the community, because that's what they kind of did with Immortal Empires. They called it a beta. It's like, okay. And it gets worrying because I think a lot of people are waking up that a lot of Total War games launch like crap. And it shouldn't be the case. Yeah, it's been like consistently for like the past 10 years. And like I've had some people arguing with me because I discussed this in a video recently. Like, it's not been like that bad. It's like, you just don't remember it. I do. Yeah. You know, like...
Yeah, I distinctly remember not playing any Total War games for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And like I didn't really enjoy Empire and Napoleon. It's not really my jam. You know, like fancy guys in fancy white wigs shooting at each other and then standing there reloading for 30 seconds. You know what I mean? Like not my... I know that's super reductionist, but you know, like not my thing. I'm you know, I like the dumb ogre stuff or the big knight stuff with the big swords and whatever. But that, like, I remember distinctly picking up Rome 2, launching it day one, and it just maxing out all the settings because like my rig could run this, my big beefy computer, and then immediately getting in and having 10 FPS and a host of issues. Like I remember just the volume of bugs in the campaign alone, like it's just so many issues. That was the first time I'd experienced that from a title, you know, like obviously Rome 2. Where did Rome 2 came after Med 2? Or is that...
Rome 2 came after Med 2. It was 2012, I want to say?
Yeah. Surprisingly old.
Yeah.
I've gone back and played a lot of the Total Wars after taking a break from Warhammer 3, like Attila and Rome 1 and, you know, some of the remasters and stuff. And they're weirdly modern, the shift from Med 2 to Rome 2. Like making big... what seemed like huge drastic changes, you know, like and advancements, and it's sort of hit like almost the wall in that regard. Like it probably is limitations of the engine, you know.
It must be. I mean, it's the same engine always. The only difference is it's I believe there was a developer that once said publicly that it was like modular or something. So what they do is just like pick and choose what they want and switch stuff around. It's like, that's cool, but if the base of it is flawed, everything is flawed.
Yeah, I've yet to see a Total War game where the gate bug doesn't exist. You know?
Oh god, yeah.
Just one guy gets in, the gate closes, but then, yeah.
There was a bug with Pharaoh recently, right, where everything just conga lined and they wouldn't actually go into the cities.
Yeah, there was that was in one of the ones in Rome too. I remember on launch when it was a really bad state. Is you would start a siege, and the units would just start. They'd move an inch, stop, move an inch, stop, and then you could just time out the whole fight for them doing that for 40 minutes, 40 in-game minutes, and then just win the battle. Like the AI was just completely broken.
That's
we're seeing that recurring now, even in Pharaoh.
Yeah.
So
it's sad because I don't know, man. Like I still have hope that they can do something. I mean, we desperately need a new engine, and obviously there's been rumors that that they've been hiring people. Well, we don't know if they're actually hiring anymore, given the circumstances. But they were having job listings out for people with knowledge of an Unreal Engine for Total War specifically. So it's like, oh, that's pretty interesting,
That could have also been internally for one of the projects that got cancelled as well, though, couldn't it? Like,
well, it said Total War on the listing. That's the thing.
Yeah, one of these. Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Like, or maybe a Total War that got cancelled. Like, because I don't think we know exactly which Total Wars were cancelled. Like concrete. I don't think they'll ever, come out with that information. It would be really nice to know, though.
Yeah. I mean, I keep up because I've got like alerts on my phone and stuff. So when they post job listings and stuff, because I'm still like.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'm a hawk for these people, man, because at the end of the day, like, I do love the franchise, and I do get excited about it. I'm angry now, and hopefully that will pass in the future, which I think a lot of people see it right now as like, oh, he's just being negative for the sake of being negative. It's like, no, I'm being negative because, Christ, man, it's the third fucking drought for Warhammer 3 now. Like, the game's only been out for a year and a half. Like,
yeah, I've never really made any like, maybe political content, like what's the word, like not negative content but like constructive content where
commentary
negative elements out.
Yeah,
where I've always just done, like, I wanted to do that sort of stuff sometimes, when you get, I think everybody does, when you want to make a video slamming someone for something or whatever, but I usually just stick to the comedic stuff and try and be positive and whatever. But even now, the CA situation has hit a wall where I'm just sort of like, it's really difficult to sing this game's praises despite the issues that I have with it,
I mean, I'm still praising them for certain things, and I'm like, obviously we know about the Kane tools, right? The map modding tools.
Yeah,
and
modders have been going wild lately.
Well, CA helped with those tools, right? So obviously I can sing CA's praises for that because they are helping out the modders, and that's a good thing. And we don't hear about that a lot because CA don't tend to post about that, right? For some stupid reason, because they should. That would win favor with the community. Hey, we are helping the modding community with something, because
instead of going 0.30 and only posting Pharaoh stuff,
it's been a lot of Pharaoh stuff now. Jeez.
Yeah, have you read the comments?
No.
I mean, obviously a little bit of pessimism like is healthy and stuff, but you read the comments and there's just not a single positive comment. It's really rough. It's like sort of sad and slightly funny to see, like, obviously nobody enjoys the situation, but you do enjoy people sort of.
There is there's been
a bit of morbid humor, I don't know,
yeah.
Like how to just, it is funny seeing, like, exactly like the memes, like it's, the situation sucks, but you got to get some joy out of it.
It's a weird thing because they're going full ham on it, and they're like, there's only like 2 creators covering Pharaoh, so they're posting those 2 creators a lot, right? And it's like, well, that's good viewership, but like the viewership themselves is going to be, you're drawing negative aspects to these people, right? And there's people who are quite genuine about it. Like one of the ones that CA are posting a lot is that Egypt podcast thing. Now, they've been going on for a lot longer than Pharaoh has been a thing, right? The idea is these guys are interested in history, which I think is very, very cool because you get a lot of interesting takes. Not something that I personally would watch or, well, listen to, but it's cool that they're getting a little bit of a push because even if Pharaoh gets 3 kingdoms, I guess they'd benefit from it. But I feel like Pharaoh's itself feels a little bit empty.
That's I think my biggest problem with it is though like, aside from like the technical issues of it, because it did bring a couple of good things, is I'm just so disinterested with that time period. I wasn't hugely interested in the Troy period. The only reason I had any interest at all is because the only reason I know anything about the Troy period is from the movie Troy with Brad Pitt as a kid. Like, that's the only reason that any dumb kid or dumb person like myself knows anything about that. I'm not a huge history buff, especially not for very weirdly specific periods of history like that. Like, yeah, not that it's not an extremely famous period of history or anything. You know, like I've got Achilles and stuff. Like, but it's not something that I'm extremely interested in, and I don't think a lot of people are interested in. Whereas Medieval 2, the entirety of medieval Europe with England and France and these famous empires, has so many, you know, and then you've got like Poland and Spain and the Moors and all these, actual ethnicities and people that'll be interested in it. It draws a lot of, interest. It's such a wide period of history.
Yeah, I mean, you get pulled in for the more like medieval ones because it's got your culture, right? And you want to play as your culture, and it's just easier to associate with. The thing for me with Pharaoh is like, I looked at it as like, well, the three factions kind of look the same. They feel the same. They are the same, right? Because
it's Egypt and the Mesopotamian area, and stuff. Like it's a saga, like it is a saga area kind of thing, despite the name. It's not called.
Oh, they only got rid of the saga name because just saga, the word saga is bad for CA.
It had negative connotations, yeah.
I don't know, man, because like it's fairly solid. Like I can be, I can sing its praises for certain things. I like the outpost system. It could be better refined, but I do like the system. The regions feel big, so if you're moving through Sinai, it feels big. And one thing I very, very much like, which was originally in Troy, but it was expanded upon in Three Kingdoms, weapon changing, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So good. It is so freaking good. And it's like, that stuff is great. I hope we see that in more modern titles too, like newer titles post this,
It's almost a step down from like Avatar Conquest in that respect with the general customization, which I think would be maybe a little bit of a shallow system or whatever, would be kind of one note, but being able to make your own custom general for a predetermined historical faction always would have appealed to me massively. Like on the run up to Warhammer 1, when they were explaining how you can change all of your character's gear and stuff, like you get all these weapons and stuff, a little part of my brain was like I really hope I can recruit one of these generic lords and then outfit them exactly how I want. Obviously, the game's too big, too many races and stuff to be able to do that, but despite them planning an Avatar Conquest apparently for Warhammer 3, which I think would have been great, maybe better suited to like 3K or something.
For Three Kingdoms it would have been incredible.
It would be amazing, right? Like especially with the custom general system with like the red generals and blue, and you could go down different color trees, and like just so much potential just sort of left by the wayside. But for Pharaoh, it's there's just not a huge amount of variation because it's such a specific period of history, Like I don't know.
It should have been bigger. It should have just been a full Bronze Age game. Like literally full Bronze Age game, because and I think everyone unanimously agrees that the Sofia team is really good. They should be making full titles. They should be making mainline titles rather than just being making half a Total War game. Because if you give them the time, the money, the funding, and all the resources they need, they could potentially make like a real balls to the wall gigantic game.
Yeah, for sure. The problem I've heard that their studio is obviously slightly smaller, which is probably why they're given to focus on saga titles. Like I was told that they worked on Thorns of Britannia, but apparently that wasn't them, or they weren't involved with that or something. But I think everything that I've seen them put out has been like a specific smaller period of history, and unless you care about that period of history or that specific part of a period of history, then you're not really going to identify with the game, like how people that didn't care about the Three Kingdoms period didn't play 3K, and
the thing is, they're good. Like if you look at them, they saved Rome 2, right? Like they are the reason why Rome 2 ended up getting better.
Yeah, Rome 2's at a really good place too. If you go back and play it compared to like, I've been playing Attila recently and Rome 2, and Rome 2 is easily the most stable, most consistent one of the older historical Total Wars.
And that's the thing. Like imagine if, because they had, when did Troy end? What, like 2 years ago?
I did not follow the timeline of Troy too much.
Fair.
All right. Not a bad game, but like especially the DLCs, like Ajax, I thought was a good addition and stuff. But yeah.
So they did, let's just say 2 to 3 years, right? It ended 2 to 3 years ago. That means they had 2 to 3 years to make Pharaoh. So if they were given maybe 5 years, they could have made like a really big Bronze Age game.
Yeah, there's a little part of me that thought, like if the setting maybe I'm attributing too much to the setting, because I personally don't really care about Egypt or like that area of the world sort of, and that, but mostly just that period of history, like the Bronze Age being very simplistic. Like there's only chariots and infantry in Pharaoh. No cav, no sort of very limited variation in unit types. But if that maybe, but like that sort of similar saga-ish thing on a different well-known period of history that people really like the 100 Years' War as an example. Like France and England, and then having a lot of mercenary stuff and other factions coming in and things like that. Even just that as a saga title, I think would have sold better just based on the premise alone.
I mean, yeah, it's more of the case of like, to be honest, like there were rumors for a while, which I was hoping were true, that we were going to basically get like an Age of Mythology Total War, especially since we had the Mythology DLC for Troy. I was like, that would be kind of fun. A lot of people would likely play that. Whether or not, if those rumors are true, we'll never know, and it's likely that any of those rumors are probably dead now, considering Hyena's basically stripping CA off everything. But it's more of the case of like, there's so much potential with that team, and I do feel like they get the short end of the stick when they should be treated like a main team.
They really haven't been given a real chance to shine with a good IP. You know? Like it's a shame.
Are you in the public Discord?
The public Total War Discord?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So during the launch, during the launch, during pre-release, during the early access weekend, and even prior before that, so much communication from the Sofia devs there with the fan base. It was insane. Like I was literally just watching it going, wow, this is so cool. Like, god damn, I wish we had that with everyone else, Yeah.
Well, imagine if they were more engaging with the community and what people wanted, and people could like do huge community polls to push changes and things that people want, like surely that would be incredibly helpful. Like I'm sure they have some bug fixing things and they take people's reports and whatever, but if they had a dedicated community feedback team as well as a custodian team for patching Warhammer 3, they could whip it like honestly make some huge, if the resources were given to them and the funds to really whip Warhammer 3 into shape.
Well, we do have
a couple of months.
We do have a dedicated patching team. This is why we're beginning hot fixes like every 2 weeks or something, but even then, like it's a bit too little too late in a sense, isn't it?
Exactly, that's what I mean. But if they did like huge changes, like completely, for example, gutting the siege system and the minor settlement system and just reworking it entirely, or at least making it way more fun and taking listening to the biggest pieces of negative feedback from people, because some pretty big consistent stuff with that.
I feel like CA doesn't really handle negative feedback too well, which is obviously a massive shame, because at the end of the day, negative feedback is what it's coming from a place where these people are saying, look, this doesn't work. It's not that they're trying to be destructive or hateful. It's more the fact that, hey, it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. It's not even negative in that sense. It's just constructive criticism. They want it to be better. It's not like, this sucks, dude. You like make it better. They're like, we don't like this. Like this doesn't really work. Can we do this? Like I've seen so much feedback just falling on deaf ears. I've submitted quite a lot of feedback myself that hasn't really been taken into account much. Mostly ogre based, but that's.
Yeah, I've been throwing a lot of feedback myself, because like there's like a few things which kind of irk me, because say for example the Mortal Chaos Lords, they're the exact same for the Mono God factions as they are for the Warriors of Chaos factions, right? So that also means that if you play Mono God, you can't get an upkeep reduction skill which is absolutely frustrating because the mono god stuff is fairly expensive, so you're stuck to using heralds. It's like, well, why can't this be different? It's just, it turns out that they're the same. It's like, well, can't you just copy the ID and literally just copy the ID and change the skill?
That's something that is sort of frustrating in a way. Is like there's a community bug fix mod for Warhammer that fixes boundless amounts of stuff, like modders to the rescue as usual, right? But like I think me and I've heard like Legend mention and a bunch of other major content creators and just community people mention that they don't like playing with so many mods. You have to rely on them being updated. You can't use them when DLC launches. There's like, it's not extremely convenient. Ideally, it's a CA. CA should be able to fix it, and I feel like some of the modders in the community are so talented and so familiar with the games and the files at this point. They're almost more familiar with them than CA, despite not having the real tools to be able to. At what point do you just try and I know they probably can't. They're not legally allowed or whatever. I've tried to ask them about that sort of stuff. Like, why don't they work directly with modders and all these people that submit these incredible mods and changes and fixes in a matter of there was I've heard it mentioned on one of your other interviews, like there was an issue for one of the Total Wars that had a mod fixing it. Oh, it was the Realm of Chaos. There was a mod to remove the portal mechanic. It was like an hour after it launched. Like,
that was the only thing that saved Warhammer 3 for me. I would not have been playing Warhammer 3 if for those 6 months that we didn't have Immortal Empires, playing that fucking poxy campaign, because I hated it. It didn't work.
No.
There was one point in one of my streams where I physically stood up to punch my monitor because I was doing the Realm of Tzeentch thing. I had beaten all the factions to it. Had to get into a few like close calls, and then it's like the fucking portal to start the fight didn't spawn. It's like I've spent fucking 2 hours in this place, man. Like, why?
With like the portals spawning in the middle of your territory, I will like die on this hill. Spawning crap in the middle of your territory with very little or no way of preventing it or combating it. And same with the Sea People's mechanic in Pharaoh and the invasion mechanic in the non-joint Immortal Empires campaign for Warhammer 2, whatever the original one was called, is armies spawning to go and attack your undefended towns is not fun. No. It's not fun. Like, can they not spawn a big ass army that goes for your armies or something? So you can be like, oh shit, hunker down in your main city and you do a huge, incredible siege defense, which you never get to do. Yeah. Like stuff like that. Like anything outside of just plopping fully developed armies in the middle of your. Yeah, because I remember streaming that back in, the launch of Warhammer 3, and enjoying, playing the ogres, playing the factions that I enjoy, and doing the stuff that I do enjoy, and then just constantly being like, these fucking portals, these stupid, the enemies rebuilding the towers every 2 seconds in sieges, all of these like little issues, and it's like you're trying to enjoy the game, and it just really does not make the game look good when you're constantly complaining about stuff.
Yeah, and it's. I remember during that period, I had some people complaining. It's like, well, you're a CA partner, I was like, well, what the fuck do you think I can do about it, man? Like, it's like, they don't listen to me. I just want like, for me, I just want to play the game. And I got much more positive the moment that that mod release, which was by Drunk Flamingo, because there was no workshop. But what they did is just made the mod and had people download it. And then I think the Modding Den had a download repository for it. I put one in my own Discord server. It's like, hey, this is the mod that you need if you want to actually enjoy Warhammer 3 right now. Because it's silly. Wow. I just want to see cool shit do cool shit, right? Nobody wants to care about doing a race. Who thought a race mechanic was fun?
Yeah, race mechanic?
Racing to get the 4 demon souls.
I thought you meant like race, like a human race, like biological race. Like,
no.
Like, yeah, I was like, race mechanic, like, like, I didn't even mind the Chaos Portals all that much. I thought that for that type of campaign, it was fine. Like, specifically the portal spawning in your territory was pretty horrendous, but, Immortal Empires really did save Warhammer 3 to a certain extent. It's just unfortunate that it's not quite where people want it.
Yeah, I mean, they promised a lot for Immortal Empires launch, like, a lot of unique settlements for each race. I think Tomb Kings have, like, 3 maps, and that's it. 2 minor, 1 major. And it's like, it's not a lot of unique stuff. And even then, the major one is actually taken from... it's the same format as the Cafe City. It's like, we can tell when something's been reskinned. It's just an asset flip, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
Even
like,
some asset flips that work wouldn't be that insulting, you know? Like, if they're adding content to races that need it. Especially old ones, like ones that aren't in... Like, now have kind of been made to look bad by newer DLCs. Like, Kazrak seems pretty crappy. Hexoatl, you know, with Mazdamundi seems kind of like shitty in comparison to the most recent DLCs. No, I wouldn't even mind some reskin stuff.
It's just the way I've seen it. It's just like everything is just too. It looks like they were rushing to get it out, and it might have been the case for it, right? But it's like, goddamn,
definitely.
Why didn't they just start adding in more maps for when they did DLCs? Like, surely Shadows of Change could have benefited from an extra Cafean map, so a little bit of diversity comes there, considering that Cafe is such a huge fucking country, man. And it's the same rice field map all the time.
Somebody reminded me about a mod for Warhammer 2 that I forgot about, and it was like a huge rush of nostalgia for it, but the GCCM mod for Warhammer 2.
Yeah.
With the actually really cool sieges.
Yeah.
Like, Warhammer 3 has a little bit of the, you know, not... Because obviously Warhammer 2 only had the single wall or, you know, 2-wall shaped, you know, like part of a big city.
Yeah.
And Warhammer 3 had sort of big cities, but then you had all this tower defense stuff and whatever, which I've sort of grown to dislike at this point.
Day one for me, I hated it.
Yeah. Now, I at first I was like, because I like minor settlement battles. Like, I like choke points in battles. I loved the maps in Troy, and now sort of in Pharaoh. They have a little bit less of that, but where the maps had natural formations and raised plateaus you could shoot down from, and choke points in natural land battles, really big, thick patches of forests instead of just blobs of trees everywhere, stuff like that. Like, really cool-looking maps with actual physical gameplay effects. Like, yeah, but so I liked minor settlement battles, but the tower defense stuff, you knock a tower down, it gets built back up straight away, kind of thing. This monotonous grind to all of the sieges just killed it eventually for me.
Fun fact: another mod fixes that too. No real-time building. You can't build after the battle starts. You can build prior to that, but nothing after, which I think is a good thing because, like, I'm one of these people, like, every time like a new race comes out or something, I do a video specifically for the new battle maps, and because I like seeing the pretty maps, right? As a tabletop player, I can appreciate terrain. And I remember when I first did my stream of Warhammer 3 during the pre-launch, I was playing, I think, a Scarbrand, and it was just like I was trying to admire the like architecture, the scenery, and I was just getting shot at constantly by these towers that just kept appearing. I was like, this is awful, man.
Yeah. It really does feel like whack-a-mole. There's also a bug that's been in the game since launch that the AI only built level 1 towers. I think it's been fixed very recently. So they sometimes build 2 or 3 level towers, but for pretty much a year since launch until very recently, they only built level 1 towers. The AI only level 1. They never built any other high level towers. Which in a way it's almost more annoying because they're all over the entire castle, shooting at you from every direction. You can't get them all. Artillery does almost no damage to them. There's so many like little changes that they can make just to make sieges immediately more enjoyable.
I saw a thread on Reddit where people would just say, just bring back the Warhammer 2 ones.
Oh man, that's like the fucking, you think you want that, but you don't, you know.
Yeah.
Blizzard thing.
The problem is, I tell you what, I think I would infinitely enjoy the game more if we had the Warhammer 2 ones back. Mostly because of this situation, right?
Yeah. The AI pathing I can almost stomach, you know, when where they just seem to be running around like headless chickens throughout the entire settlement. They don't choke point, they don't try and stop you from progressing at all. They just sort of pepper you and drag you into all of their level 1 towers and stuff. Like, just there's little changes, like like you said, like the mods that they could do to make sieges way more enjoyable. Because I feel like you do sieges more than any other battle type in Total War. Just because
you do.
Tend to sit. They just sit in their castles. They're they're not very aggressive, even on the higher difficulty levels, unless they've got 3 times your numbers and 3 times your unit quality. They're barely gonna be aggressive.
It's
but
just
like
such
most,
a shame.
yeah. Well, I've heard that the sieges are being going to be worked on and slowly patched as the game is improved. So hopefully they drop some kind of big sweeping changes.
Yeah, at this point, man, like anytime CA say something, I take it with like a tremendous, massive pinch of salt. At this point, I just get
Take it with a whole salt shaker.
the whole shaker, man, because it's like,
Yeah.
very unique settlements for everyone. No,
No.
constant, just constant, innovative DLCs. Not really. I mean,
Yeah,
Chaos Dwarfs
was. It was the less passable DLC, I would say, like for price to content offered. Yeah, like with increasing prices and whatever, like stuff behind the scenes, whatever. But just in terms of what you're getting for the price, like I even Chaos Wars to me, I was like, it needs that Fourth Lord a little bit. Like it's three dwarfs, two of them feel very similar. It needs that,
Well, there was drama with that too.
Give me my big centaur man, please.
There was drama with the Chaos Dwarfs because someone at CA misspoke when they did some post on the forum, and they said, "Oh, soon we'll be able to show you all the lords with all their unique mechanics." It's like faction effects and lord effects are not a unique mechanic, my friend.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and a couple of their mechanics were pulled straight from Cathay too, like
their caravan system is better
caravans.
though. Their caravan system is much better.
It is technically, yeah. Part of that is because they give you free dreadquakes and shit, though. Like, you get some really fun fights.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those fights are the most engaging that I've had in Warhammer 3, which is really sad. Where they give you a little army with some key units, and then you get Greasus will ambush you in the mountains or whatever, and it's this uphill battle, this difficult uphill battle that's really engaging.
The Chaos Dwarfs, I think, people. I can't speak about the Total War fan base, but I can speak about like the Warhammer tabletop guys. Paying €25 is nothing, considering like you used to pay 80 quid for just 10 Chaos Dwarfs, right?
Yeah, but Games Workshop guys I think are so used to paying exorbitant fees for figures and stuff, like they're so expensive. I had to give it up as a kid. Like I just, I'd have to like beg my parents to get me these figures for birthdays and stuff as a kid. Like I want an Ogren pack. Like these just so expensive, and then I would just be too young to wrap my head around the tabletop game and stuff. But
it's
so
complicated,
expensive.
yeah. But I mean, like I've got a full army of Chaos Dwarfs. My plan was actually to paint up a full army of Chaos Dwarfs, Forge World Chaos Dwarfs, for the release of the DLC. But when we got access to the DLC, I was like, wow, this is actually so fun that I'm staying and playing rather than just making even videos too. So I had no time to paint them up. I've slowly been painting up my Chaos Dwarfs now because obviously Old World's getting closer. But it was like the case of like, something that I've always wanted to do for the DLC launches is to paint up the stuff. And I was going to do that with the Chaos Dwarfs. I couldn't because I was having fun. And I was like, well, I'm going to sit down, the next DLC, I'm going to do it. Shadows of Change comes, we get access. I go, wow, this is awful. And I just didn't want to, man. Like,
yeah.
It's a shame, though, because I actually have 2 Muthlith Vortex Beasts that I need to paint up. And they're really good models, but it's like, it took it off from me, right? Like, then seeing...
It seems so daunting to paint some of these huge, in-depth figures.
The bigger ones are actually easier to paint, I must say. Like, it's easy, less detail, and I find it more fun. Like right now, I've been painting up a Plague Hulk, which is a 40k miniature that we actually have in Total War Warhammer 3. It's the Nurgle Soul Grinder. It's actually supposed to be its own thing. So I've been painting it up because I'm like, I always wanted to do like 4 monogod armies, and I mean like fully stacked. And I don't want to use a normal skinny, a normal Soul Grinder because they're skinny for Nurgle, right? Doesn't make any sense. So prior to them going out of rotation in Forge World, I bought one. Never painted it. The resin had basically just been untouched, and this was like, I think they took it off rotation like 7 years ago. So I was like, oh, I've got a reason to paint this up now, finally,
Yep.
I have no impulse control when it comes to the miniatures, though, so that's a big my fault. But it's every tabletop guy. Anyone who's like a tabletop guy listening to this video, yes, I'm calling you out. Like it's just how it is, and that's why we could justify the Chaos Dwarf price. I could no way in hell justify Shadows of Change though.
No, I think that was the break because a lot of people were just like the justify the chaos rolls automatically. I've seen people even for Shadow to Change though. Like you have those people that are just like, it's like the price is fine. Why is everybody being such a big baby? Like whatever, without even thinking about the fact that you're spending the same amount that you essentially the same amount you're paying for the Chaos Dwarves for drastically less content than that. Like it's such a huge price. Like what 150% increase.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
And it's not even a bad DLC. It was just priced so poorly for what you actually got. I don't even dislike it. Like the Wanbo is easily the best Cathay Lord now.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't a huge fan of the whole dragon thing. You're just a giant target. Like the fat little crowmen are dope as hell. Stankia I enjoyed briefly, but I think it's definitely the weakest one of the three.
By far. She's got fun
additions,
mechanics, but like
Yeah.
she just doesn't have units associated with her. Like
Yeah.
it pisses me off. I actually went to the Warhammer Club recently down here, and someone's like, "Hey, look!" And they showed me a Beowulf, right? I was like, "Fuck, man! Even seeing the miniature now just makes me angry."
It's ruined for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's like similarly, I don't like the Akshina ambushers because they made
furries.
my yes, because they further made my favorite Kislev unit more redundant.
Oh yeah,
The,
Streltsy are just pointless now, aren't they?
They're completely pointless. They have a shorter, like a longer ranged, like stealth with sniping. They can shoot from stealth. They do armor piercing. Their Streltsy are just dead in the ground at this point, and they're so cool looking. Like, yeah, it's sad.
And the big thing for me, and some people were picking apart my my review for it, is like the Incarnate Elemental of Beast has no historic ties to Kislev. I'm a big lore nerd, so I am obviously going to be against it. And it's the case of not only that, but we already have an Incarnate Elemental because the Elemental Bear is now listed as an Elemental. So why do they have two Elementals, right? Like, clearly we could have done with something else, like the Frost Fiend.
Yeah, I feel like some of them were a bit because I think I want to say you touched on this or somebody told me about this, but with Stankia as well is with Mama Stanky is that was they were trying to sell us like this is not this is not Baba Yaga. This has nothing to do with Baba Yaga. Shut up. This is our own unique thing that looks and sounds and smells and feels a lot like Baba Yaga, but it's not that. Like no chicken hut, and then just why do they just make it? Imagine a giant chicken hut stamping on people, and it's immediately such a unique thing amongst the whole universe that makes it stand out. And the animations could have been phenomenal. It would have been a really like aesthetically interesting unit. Yeah, I don't know, just a lot of missed potential in those little things with that. But,
well, the thing with Ostenka is they literally copy-pasted Baba Yaga's lore from the second edition roleplay book and just changed her name to Ostenka. Like, they literally copy-pasted her lore. Same thing with the Beowulfs. They're like, oh yeah, these are creatures of Kislev, blah, blah, blah. And it literally copy-pastes the Mordheim unit description. It's like, it's a creature of chaos. It's like, for fuck's sake, man. Like,
they also tied a bunch more of those animal units to another character.
Yeah.
Which was I don't hate it.
Yeah.
But it is like with the FLC, what's her name?
Draika.
Tree Lady Draika. With her, bears and spiders and stuff like that. Like works good for her. Now they've put that on Ostankia. Aesthetically makes somebody did make a common normal time, who's probably my favorite.
Oh, the spider mod,
yeah,
it's disgusting.
Yes, it is. I genuinely jump scared me when I opened it. I hate spiders.
Same.
I've had a fear of spiders since I was a kid, and if people don't know about him, I do want to shout him out because his mods are phenomenal.
He is.
He makes legitimate like DLC quality remodels and stuff, and then they look like I don't even know where he gets the assets from. Like he made the Kurobuta like ninja man-eater for a bruiser for the mod where they added in bruisers, which is the generic melee ogre lord, and it looks like genuinely like a CA quality model. It's so impressive.
The modding community that we have is just insane.
They're so talented, dude. Like it's phenomenal. Like it's the only thing keeping the game fresh.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I've been talking to a lot of modders myself because I'm in a lot of the private groups, And
Yeah.
a lot of the modders ask me for lore advice regarding units and stuff like that, and I'm happy to help them out because they're good people, and I love talking to them. They are genuinely my friends, but a lot of them are burning out. A lot of them are burning out, and a lot of them are like, what's the point? Some of them are fucked off to CK3, some of them have gone off to other games, and it's like, you know, I should be disappointed, but I completely understand you.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, you can't hardly blame people for jumping ship, or not jumping ship, but just like, you know, going away for a little bit, taking a vacation, sort of thing. Is seeing, you know, going to another ship and looking at the other one and seeing if it sinks, kind of thing. You know, like the best way I can describe it. That's kind of the boat that I'm in, like literally, like in that I'm not really making Total War content currently because I'm just not enjoying it as much. And all the controversy around it doesn't help.
Yeah.
So it's, but yeah, it is sad to see talented people leave, because of the, you know, that what essentially is just based on bad business decisions from higher ups. You know,
it is ridiculous because you'd think obviously the devs are aware because the devs do talk to the modders and so on. So the devs must be going, hey, this guy's leaving, this guy's leaving, this guy's leaving. Fuck, you know, like these when you start losing people keeping stuff together, because like again, the only reason why Warhammer 3 kept going until Immortal Empires was because modders were coming out and doing some pretty amazing stuff, and we've got a lot of mods. I can tell, like I can be very honest, and I've said this in a video before, I know of a lot of like breathtaking mods that have either been shelved completely or been put on hold, and I mean complete like races and stuff that people were making for Warhammer 3.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because unfortunately just tired.
Yeah, they're just recurring issues. And then the future, when the future of the series looks bleak as well, like people don't want to develop a mod for a game that you know could just stay in the same, like they're waiting for, you know, patches for it to get better, or their DLCs just keep building and building, it gets better and better to achieve this, you know, like back when Warhammer 1 released, people looking to Warhammer 3 in the distant future as this magnum opus of the Warhammer universe, and then, you know, it's just sort of sad that it's you know,
we're all expecting like a big thing, right? Like even when support eventually gets cut, we could play this for hours and hours, and it just doesn't feel like it, because it feels like the support has been kind of stripped from it as it stands, right?
Yeah, that's the thing, like the lack of, like, because I just hot fixes, when you look through the hot fixes and actual changes and stuff as well, it's mostly like bug fix here and there, whatever, things have been fixed, and some, and maybe a couple of the major things people have been asking for in terms of stuff they can quickly get out. But other than that, it's almost all multiplayer unit price and upkeep balance, which is fine. And I agree that some units are under or overpowered. Like, I'm still mad that my Gorges got nerfed. Like that was still annoying because they were completely broken, obviously, at launch. But like things, but I think what people really, really, truly want is big changes. I would be happy with nothing for 2-3 months. No hot fixes, no nothing, and then a huge, earth-shattering rework patch kind of deal. Like just put a big team on it, patch the crap out of it, and then release these beautiful drops full of like massive reworks and stuff. You know?
Yeah.
Because then when you get back into the game and it feels different fundamentally and in big ways, it's always a huge change. Like with like I keep going back to Larian as kind of the gold standard, but. Like Baldur's Gate 3 released with some obvious issues. Huge game, that things are bound to happen, issues, but they immediately were like, all right, what do you guys want? And they were like, we'd like a way for us to be able to have our friends hop in, make a custom guy, then put them in, like have them leave and stuff like that. They did that straight away. It came out in like less than a month. And then they added a way to recustomize your character. So you can actually recustomize your character after you've made them. So like big, like, you know, massive changes that affect like have huge, you know, changes to your full campaigns that you can keep going back to and stuff. Makes a dramatic difference. You know, I'd love to see that with Warhammer 3, but
one thing that actually was really impressive, and I know it sounds very minimal, but it was a Baldur's Gate thing where they changed the Hellas cat to have fur again, right?
Yeah.
Everyone went batshit insane, and they changed it back. Like after a few days, it's like that's good reactionary.
Exactly.
Stuff,
it's called listening to your community. It's wild. Like obviously for small things like that, I'm sure it's just, you know, a 5-minute job on their part. They're just swapping models around. But from but the fact that they're actually actively listening and implementing, they have a thing in their Discord, in the Larian Discord, they have a huge feedback thing, and there's thousands of submissions in there, and all the best ones get floated up to the top. So there's like, people wanted expansions to Karlach's background and romance options and stuff like that, and Minthara, and all these changes and stuff, and like and all the ones that floated to the top are being actively, listened to and worked on and stuff. And it's a great way to survey community feedback and then implement the most, the stuff that floats to the top.
Yeah, I mean, it's important, if you want the game to do well.
Yeah, I think that'd be a huge addition if CA could pull that off in their Discord. Just the public CA Total War Discord, have a, or specifically the Total War one, have like a feedback section for Warhammer 3. And I guarantee some phenomenal ideas will float to the top, or at least the stuff that the community's biggest issues are obviously going to float to the top,
Well, I think it's just, again, that they don't like criticism. And it's a shame because at the end of the day, it's what makes us human, right? The fact is that criticism is good because it helps you improve.
Exactly. If any company that isn't willing to listen and improve in some kind of way is sort of destined to fail in that regard. And I really hope we're not seeing that, now with all of this downturn.
Yeah, I mean, I get a little worried because, we know that cutbacks are coming. We don't know exactly how big these cutbacks are going to be. There have been rumors floating about and so on, but it's like, this could be damning, especially, and a lot of people didn't. I don't think a lot of people were looking towards what happened to Relic, where Relic had a 50% cut.
Yeah.
So it's like this could happen to CA too, because it's another studio on the Sega, and Sega are ruthless.
Yeah. But they're not. I don't think they'll get bought out as well.
Yeah. Like there's rumors about it, and we know because there was a leaked email from the Microsoft servers that they were looking to buy Sega. But like we discussed this privately, didn't we? That we really don't think that's going to happen because it's just not in their nature, especially.
Yeah, there's no way. Stranger things have happened though.
Oh yeah.
I think there's been such long-standing issues in the Total War franchise though that people, with the new engine and stuff, that if it obviously is horrible that people are, potentially going to lose their jobs and stuff, but there needs to be some kind of a shake-up of any kind.
There does.
Like for something to happen, something to change.
It needs to be like they need to start like axing management, I'd say, more than anything. The ones that are making the silly decisions, because again, hyenas. Someone decided to put 100 million into that. I mean, you know how much damage I could do with 100 million, man. Like,
good God, you could start a gaming company with 100 million and put out tremendous games.
Dude, I could
like that.
I could buy so much land I could form a country. Like. Yeah,
that's just overwhelming amount of money for them. That to be blown on a game that nobody really wanted. I mean, there's no other way to say it, really. Like, especially when they were going to release it. It was
next month.
It's a dying genre. It was a booming genre in 2016. But
yeah, but like it was going to be released next month, right? Like, why not at least just release it rather than kill it off prior to release? Because that makes you look worse, doesn't it?
Yeah, I feel like there must have been something really bad happening in the background for it to get axed like that, like be essentially fully developed, but then get killed off. But like the fact that it's a live service game probably has something to do with it. Surely, like that it needs upkeep after its launch, and if they don't project that it's going to do well and has very little interest.
Well, the projections were low. Yeah, I mean, I watched some of the streamers because I wanted to check out the game because they didn't give us keys, which is weird, but still, I was like, fuck it, man. I'll watch a streamer. You could get a key from watching them for half an hour, and it was a lot of paid streamers for it, which was like, okay, and then I saw one streamer who had like close to 1 million followers on Twitch, and he had less numbers than I bring in for Twitch, and it's like, oof, that must be that must sting, man.
Well, that's the thing with the like people streaming Pharaoh and stuff like that. Like, it is brave of them to stream a game that has such little interest. Like I was blown away by the player numbers. Like I saw the polls of people's interest and stuff, but it really translated to the all-time player peak, what didn't even break 10K.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's so low for a Total War game. Even a Saga title that's or whatever people want to call it.
I think it was also because a lot of people were quick to go. It's just, oh, nobody liked Pharaoh. It's like, I understand that there's a lot of people who would be interested in Pharaoh, but I also understand that a lot of people didn't buy Pharaoh who might have bought Pharaoh, but because of all the drama that happened with Warhammer 3, they were like,
true.
I'm not touching this.
It's kind of a perfect storm. Like after there'll be a tremendous amount of people. Well, I mean, there's a tremendous amount of people who didn't buy Shadows of Change because of the backlash and stuff, and because we're refunding it to try and make a statement to say, like, this is too expensive, this is, this is not enough here, and things need to change and whatever. They're making a stand. So Pharaoh kind of dropped it, unfortunately, the worst possible time, I think.
Yeah, they should have delayed it a little bit just to, like, save face. Because it feels bad for the Sofia guys, because again, I still feel like they've done a lot of really good work. It's not a game for me, but I can appreciate it. It's the same thing as like I can look at games, and even if they're not for me, I'm not going to say it's bad. One game which has now been making a lot of people quite interested again, interesting enough, is Heroes of the Storm, because it seems since Microsoft bought Blizzard, they started patching it again, which is wild. But I hate mobbers. I absolutely despise mobbers. Because I played Warcraft 3 during the birth of Dota, so like...
Yeah, I was going to say, I played a lot of, like, Hero Wars and Dota and the Warhammer, like, tons of the Warcraft. Warcraft 3 had a beautiful multiplayer scene. I've never seen game modes come out, like, entire games and game modes come out of just, like, a multiplayer creation system for a game. It was phenomenal.
Beautiful. Like, I still play... I bought Reforged... because they killed the original thing, and I still wanted to play a lot of the maps, so I still play it on a regular basis, because like Azeroth Wars is still going, and that's one of my main
really?
Yeah, man, it's so good. It's been taken over by some guy called Lord Sebas now, and it's 24 player Azeroth Wars, man. Like, how fucking insane is that?
Wow.
It's so good.
Cool. It would have been, like, if they'd have increased the limitations of the engine, it would have been a tremendous thing, like have larger player lobbies and stuff, because with the old with how old the game is, the amount of entities that you could have on screen if you programmed it correctly. And maybe it is obviously a limitation of that engine, but it would have been cool to have they increase the scope of the game. But I didn't buy Reforged because of the tremendously bad feedback, which was disappointing, because I was ready for a full-on nostalgia trip playing the campaign again and playing Vampirism and all the other multiplayer game modes and stuff. Like,
well, the problem is that Blizzard have this, and it's always been the case with Blizzard, right? They'll announce a new project, and they'll lie through their teeth. And people will actually accept those lies as fact. Like Warlords of Draenor was one of the big ones, where you can put your garrison anywhere, and you can do this, and you can do that. And Cataclysm had that too a lot. I'm used to it, whereas people now get mad when they get the title. It's like, well, you should have come into it seeing all the stuff that they promised, and then cut out like 60% of those promises, and then... that's what you're gonna get,
Yeah, it's like you're just sort of used to being lied to at that point. You're like, so like that. The Ballad of Buster Scruggs meme when he's being hung. He looks to the other guy next to him. He's like, first time.
Exactly that. Exactly that.
Yeah.
Exactly that. It's like it's something that happens with a lot of games. I mean, it's not as bad as, like, for example, Fable, right? That guy is a known pathological liar, but Blizzard.
Oh, Peter Molyneux?
Yeah.
See, I have a soft spot for Peter Molyneux because I was a huge fan of the early Fable games, of Fable 2 and a little bit Fable 3, but mostly they released one of my favorite games of all time called Black and White 2.
Yes.
Which was most people love the first game. I played the second one for thousands of hours. It's gotta have been. I adored that game. Just being able to, there's so few games outside of Total War strategy wise that I like city builders and war strategy games and stuff like that. Like, Total War has always been my number one for strategy. Like, I do not have the brain and the patience to sit down and play Hearts of Iron or CK3 or CK2 or whatever. Just like, these map evolution and political intrigue games and stuff. It's like a really in-depth campaign Total War game. But I just don't. I just can't. I can barely play Total War games, as people have seen. Like, it's
See, I've gotten really into CK3 because the modding scene for that is just insane, and
yeah,
a lot of them are from the Total War scene. Funny enough, I did a video recently on the Warcraft mod for CK3, and someone actually commented on my video going, "Hey, I was a former Warhammer 3 modder." And it's like, oh, and he's working on the CK3 mod now. It's like, weird. I mean, not weird, but like, interesting. And like, the Game of Thrones mod is so good and so on. I know that you do a lot of Bannerlord stuff though.
Yeah, well, I mostly have been dipping into the Persistent Empires mod because I played a lot of that back in Warband, and it's one of those mods that has a huge potential. Like you've got factions in the game run entirely by players, empires made by players, and then you have these sieges involving live battles with a couple hundred players and stuff like that, and these it's you just don't like it. It's so good. The potential there is so good, but obviously it's community driven. So
yeah, that sounds fucking
the
cool.
Issues that arise. Yeah, no, people should definitely check that out. Persistent Empires for Bannerlord. Unfortunately, the community sort of ruins it, but they're working on RP servers now, and the mod's almost like out of beta now and stuff. So it's getting up there, But yeah, love Bannerlord.
So I've been playing the Bannerlord Warhammer mod. I speak to the devs fairly regularly, and I tell you what, they are so dedicated to making an authentic experience, but also still keeping it to the whole Bannerlord aspect, where you've got a lot of freedom, and they're just having so much fun with it, man.
Yeah, it looks phenomenal. What I'm mostly looking forward to that mod is where they start implementing size unit changes, and also monsters and units. Like I know there's a couple in there, like there's like the can wraiths, I think, which are like I'm really interested to know how they did that, because it's like these little punched over ghost guys with scythes and stuff, and obviously there's gonna be a little jank here and there because it's not meant to be implemented like that. Like so the demigriffs looked a little bit janky and stuff because they're based on horse models and stuff, like but like as soon as I can play as a little goblin, knee height, waist height, whatever, just stabbing dudes in the ankles, like I'm in, like, especially and then if they start adding in trolls, ogres, or I'm assuming they'll stick to old world, obviously. So
the current thing so far is the old world. They wanted to do the whole world originally, but it takes a long time.
Oh god, I can imagine.
But I tell you what, I've been playing because I had a little bit of early access to the Bretonia stuff, right? And it is just so satisfying, to the point. Right, the cat is summoning me. But to the point that I played a stream of it, and straight after, it was like 2 a.m., I sprayed up some Grail Knights and I started painting them because I was like, I was inspired to paint up some Grail Knights after seeing a charge of 200 Grail Knights just obliterate an Empire army.
That's what I love about Bannerlord in comparison to Total War, as well as it scratches that itch of like you're commanding these huge battles. As Bannerlord lets you take part in those battles, it's like I've always wanted that in a Total War game, the ability to like go in and control a lord or hero.
There was a mod for that in Med 2.
There was a mod for that?
Yeah.
I think I remember something like that actually. I mostly just played like reskin mods for Med 2. Like that Lord of the Rings one still stands in my opinion as one of the best mods of all time.
Yeah,
like the full Lord of the Rings overhaul for
that one. The Game of Thrones one is also quite good. The Warcraft mod, I gravitate towards the Warcraft one because it's just so silly.
Well, that's the thing. Warcraft is so high fantasy that it some of the models always look like a bit out of place.
Yeah, they're always. But we were going to have something like that. I think for people who are trying for Troy to do that, especially with the new tools. But I think a lot of the modders burnt out there too. I know there was a Lord of the Rings mod planned for Troy, because obviously with Troy it makes perfect sense, right? Because you've already got the features for like mythological units and so on for trolls and so on. But apparently,
of course.
I've heard, I'm not too sure, so someone in the comments could correct me, that mod has unfortunately been axed, which would be a massive shame. Because we have a lot of Lord of the Rings mods, let's be honest, but like it's just always nice to have more.
That's still stands in my opinion. It's got to be the most in the back of everyone's brains, the one Total War that everybody truly wants. The one, if they could get that IP down, it would be the biggest IP. Like one of the biggest strategy games of all time.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, especially if, you know, when Total CA and their reputation, their games were at their peak, especially like if they'd have dropped, if they'd have announced Lord of the Rings Total War, I think even now amongst controversy, people would lose their minds.
Oh yeah, they would definitely lose it. I mean, we've all heard those rumors of Total War 40k, right? And I wholeheartedly believe it's coming to the point that I would put money into it. But if I was given the choice, 40k or Lord of the Rings, fucking Lord of the Rings, man. Like,
absolutely, yeah.
It's so cool. Stick it there in the whole third war situation, have a little bit of everything, every single faction. Do it with the whole Warner Brothers license, so you can take advantage of all the stuff that Games Workshop fleshed out too, because Games Workshop fleshed out a lot of the factions. As like,
God. It always upsets me, the whole Warner Brothers thing with a lot of the, like the Nemesis system and Shadow of War, Shadow of Mordor. One of the coolest things I've seen in a game, like in terms of an RPG like element, and it's just almost completely untapped for the potential of that. Like,
oh yeah, they trademarked it, and then nobody can actually make that system.
Exactly. Imagine like that in a fully flushed out RPG. We're not with like a lot of customization and stuff.
It'd be so
phenomenal.
Cool. I don't know. Actually, I want to ask you about, like, given all the rumors that are coming out for the Total War games, you know, like Empire 2, Medieval 3, World War 1, which I frankly do not think that we should get.
World War 1 for are they gonna have units like the problem with that is it's recent enough
and mustard gas.
If they mustard gas, and then you know, early German warfare, you know, with the goose stepping, and then, you know, like it might get there's some stuff they're gonna have to redact for a.
Well, this is the thing, right? I wholeheartedly believe that someone in CA management would go, yeah, this is a good idea, without thinking, like, the Total War community, no offense, guys, but yes, offense too. You can be kind of cringe, you know, and then you're going to start bringing in chemical warfare into it. It's like, you know? Yeah,
there's going to be some
spicy things.
Yeah. I think every community has their ups and downs or whatever, right? I still do love the Total War community. I think it's, at its core, it all loves, you know, we all love Total War games and want them to be good. But I can imagine some really cringe stuff for World War One. I still think that if they make them too modern, it's going to be such a departure from the base of you know, what Total War is usually based on. Like, obviously, even for me, like Empire was getting too a little modern for me even. And then I know there was World War One mods for Napoleon and for Empire, right? Like that, I didn't like World War One tanks and stuff, and stuff like that. Like, you know. You know, I'm sure some people would enjoy it, but I feel like trench warfare would be a very difficult thing to put in a Total War title, you know? Yeah,
I mean, instead of playing, I thought about it when I heard the rumors, right? It's like World War One. It's like, why would I play a Total War World War One game when we already have that Great War game, which is actually really, really fun, right? We've already got it. We don't need to make another one. The thing is with the modern stuff, I mean, we're going to get a Total War 40k, it's for sure. Like, I am so sure it's happening. I would put money, and I'm not a gambling man. And it's like, that feels to me too much, which is why I'd prefer, like, another, like a Lord of the Rings game, or more importantly, Med Free, because Sword and Board is just cooler, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that I'm very much not a modern warfare or you know, any, you know, World War One, World War Two kind of guy, as much as I am, you know, ancient history or like medieval history or fantasy. But so obviously everyone has their own what they like the most. Like, there'll be some people that love Pharaoh, for example. There'll be a couple of, you know, like all 6 of the guys that there'll be guys that like Pharaoh, you know, like love the Bronze Age era, know all of these famous people and whatever, and that's their jam. But I think the Total War community on a whole, like, it's got to be like medieval too, or like the medieval era, I would say.
Yeah,
it's got to be like pinnacle of that. So them pivoting into like 40k nerds would have to supply the majority of the fan base for that game, and they are rabid.
Well, let's be honest, the Warhammer fan base is the only thing keeping CA alive right now, you know, like.
yeah, for real. Like, I think it would be such a departure from what we're used to, though. If they made a 40k, like, I'd be fascinated to know how they're even gonna.
Oh yeah, it's definitely gonna need a new
scale for.
No, it has to 40K. It has to be big scale. If they do a small scale Total War 40k, and with no aspirations of making it larger, the 40k community will like cannibalize CA.
Don't worry. They'll find a way to put the gate bug in. I'm sure.
Yeah.
It'll be in there.
Could you imagine just gates of terror?
Yeah.
Oh god, that would depress me. But like the thing is, like Warhammer Fantasy fans are easier to deal with, and I warn CA through these interviews anytime that I talk about a Total War 40k game. Is Warhammer Fantasy fans are easier to deal with, and we're not easy to deal with in general. Just imagine the 40k fan base who are so extremely toxic, right? And
yeah. I will say I was impressed with the 40k fan base, and because I've really gotten into any 40k game where I deal with the community in terms of like something that's multiplayer. So my first full 40k game outside of like that was multiplayer was Darktide.
Oh, Darktide
was the first time I've and even on launch, like just people's ogre names. The fact that almost the entire community unanimously decided, let's all call our Ogren dumb Ogren names, and like RP as Ogrens across the board almost entirely. So everyone's just called Grok or Rock or all these dumb names, and it's just amazing to see an entire community come together to theme their characters together and stuff, and just go with the lore and just have fun with it. It's really, honestly, was really nice to see from a Total War community. Warhammer community.
Yeah, they went full ham because that's all they wanted. They just wanted a game though that they could just do as much damage as possible and like shoot as much shit as possible. Darktide seems to be in a better place now since they added in the class overhauls too. I enjoyed it myself. In all honesty, I thought it's like, oh, this is actually fairly decent. It still needs more, but it is definitely in a better place.
That's the thing. Like, it feels like a really polished version of what it should have. Like, it's essentially just what the game should have been at launch. Right now, it is how it should have launched, and also no cash shop. But
the cash shop is abysmal.
I can't believe they also relaunched it with this admittedly very good patch, very good changes, and also they dropped the most popular skin they could possibly could have dropped at a slightly higher price than usual to get people to get that extra net profit.
Oh, was that the Krieg
in Aquila's? Yeah, they deliberately made it 2,900 instead of 2,400 to up people to the other Aquila's pack, and they got to make their money. I know that they have to be rewarded for development time and stuff and get paid, but man, it has this veiled theme of money around it,
Well, you know the reason why, right?
Disappointing. Because it's the Games Workshop related?
No, Tencent bought Fat Shark a while ago.
Oh yeah, right. Of course, Tencent. Yeah, no, right. Of course, yeah.
So when you get the literal herpes of gaming taking over you,
Yeah, the publishers, Papa Nurgle stank getting all over Darktide.
It's so pathetic because I didn't buy the Krieger stuff. I've got a lot of Aquilas because I took part in the launch and like they gave us a decent amount. And I was like,
oh man, I contacted somebody on the team and got a free key and that's it. I didn't even get any Aquilas.
Oh, we got a lot because they made like this Darktide creator Discord and stuff, which has been totally ignored for the most case. Now they're communicating more. But in most cases, like since launch, they went radio silent until recently, and it's like, goddamn, man, the system is pretty awful, I must admit. But hey, they're trying now. I mean, I want something new. I want new maps because I was doing 14-hour fucking streams, bro. 14-hour streams.
That is my what I was gonna say. My biggest thing of coming back is I've been playing a ton of Darktide again. But once that patch dropped, I got involved and I was looking into it, and I found out that you can also play with mods and still be able to randomly match with people and play multiplayer, but with mods. So I'm playing third-person mode with like a scoreboard and like some little small change stuff like that. Playing the game in third person alone is really a huge dramatic change. Being able to look around corners and see your character all the time, so you can get the actual full price that people paid for their extremely expensive skins in a first-person game. Yeah, wild to me, by the way, that people would still do that.
Warhammer fans was,
that's the amount of people that bought that Krieg skin. I feel like probably made them more money than they made from the launch of the game.
Krieg,
I've
very
seen-
popular, man. Like,
Yeah,
I have a Krieg
even
army.
yeah, even I like as not a huge fan of 40k outside of just basic Imperial Guard and Ogryn, obviously, and also Basilisk tanks are dope as hell.
Yes.
But I like that. I mostly got into that because of Dawn of War back in the day. The Winter Assault DLC and stuff just got me into them hardcore. But yeah, the that skin every game when that DLC the patch dropped, every like minimum of like 2 people in your party would be wearing the Krieg skin. Like I'd love to see the metrics on how much they made off that, because that was a really smart move adding that skin in when they dropped their patch. You know, their big rework.
I've got my guy looking like an Elysian Dop Troop because I'm using an Akatran a lot, so it's like, I kind of want to use the gun that I've got the skin attached to, you know? 'Cause
Yeah.
it's just kind of fun.
I've had the same Ogryn outfit the entire time.
Have you just been playing Ogryn then?
Ogryn and Zealot, Knife Zealot.
I've been playing so much Veteran, it's insane, man.
Yeah, I've never been able to get, because what I do like is the classes feel drastically different. You know, Psyker feels completely different to Veteran, which feels completely different to Zealot, and Ogryn feels drastically different. Like it, I've always liked that about it. But I've never been able to get into Psyker. They're sort of the nerds of the the bunch. You know, I can't. I just like smashing with my big dumb idiot guy, or stabbing with my little knife guy. You know.
See, I liked the Elysian Drop Troops in back in the day on the tabletop. I had a bunch of them. I think they were one of my first Forge World purchases, actually, back in the day. And then when I saw how the gun played in Darktide, because it's such a rapid fire gun, and I'm that type of person to just go gung ho and just leave everyone behind.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is perfect, man. This is so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm hoping that DLC, because they keep hinting like Gene Stealer cults and stuff, and I would love to see stuff and more maps, you know, because it would be great. Like the visuals are beautiful, don't get me wrong, but I want to see more.
Oh, that's my biggest thing, is like I would love some more biomes, like some like Vermintide, which weirdly I think part of it is because you can't in Vermintide you're playing as one of the characters. You know, you play as Kruber or the dwarf, Baden, or whatever, or any of those characters. I don't particularly have any background or whatever with any of these characters. I don't really know them. You know, they're well-written characters and stuff, I'm sure. I much prefer having my own custom character. So I'm a huge fan of, like, you know, just character customization in general, and being able to make my own custom guy.
Yeah.
And being able to make my own custom Ogryn is the only reason I got into Darktide in the first place.
It's better. I completely agree with you. Like I'm a Warhammer fantasy guy, but even I can say I enjoy Darktide more.
Yeah, but I will say that the maps in Vermintide are very varied, because obviously it's just based on, because just the Warhammer world, they're in like Ubersreich or whatever, and then branch out and do different missions at different locations, right? Whereas I guess because 40k is on like a planetary scale, the planets are very much one note, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is why almost all of the maps are just sort of like a lot of reused assets of these big mechanical things, which look great. But I've done maybe the 5 different maps that are in the game hundreds of times, and at this point I'm sort of like, give me anything else, man. Like I'd take a slightly different shade of metal at this point, you know.
See, I was hoping that we'd get more outside maps, because
Yes,
like we got that little bit of a glimpse of the ash waste outside. I was like, oh, this is so cool. It would be so great.
The lighting alone, having just open lighting instead of this sort of dark corridors, you know, kind of thing, which I love games that take advantage of lighting. But to have that drastic biome change, because I remember they accidentally dropped those sand maps in.
Yeah.
During they accidentally added them in, and being able to suddenly play them with no announcements was like, whoa, this is great. Is this what's coming? This is awesome. Like, I'd kill for like a jungle map or something, you know, Catachan style jungle.
Dude. Yes. I'm just thinking there's like, oh my god, could you imagine just fighting a Catachan devil? That would just be so insane.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they're bringing this Tyranid thing, and that really is, you know, because I when I heard Gene Stealer, I was like, oh, like a Tyranid thing. Would it just be swarms of Tyranids then? Is that the idea? Or is it like, because I've seen artwork of it, it's like these humanoid, like Tyranid guys, like Tyranid men with guns and stuff. Like,
Yeah, so
Like,
Gene Stealer cult infestation is what happens prior to the invasion of like a Tyranid invasion. They come in, they seduce the women, and they breed and breed constantly, which is why they're so mutated. But some of them have like I guess it could be explained as scion waves. So people are looking at you and they don't notice the mutations.
oh,
So
I was gonna
if,
say, how do they not be like, no, thanks?
yeah,
Weird. Like,
a lot of them will also hide their faces too, depending on what type of planet. But essentially, what they are is you're fighting guardsmen, just heavily mutated guardsmen. Well, not
Right.
mutated, but crossbred. And like it would be cool because you'd get that. You'd also be fighting standard gene stealers. At that point, they could even find a way to say, yeah, they've already been breeding some of the smaller Tyranids, like Gaunts and stuff like that, just to add in a little bit of flavor. And it'd be cool.
Yeah.
Like Gene Stealer cults are a fun faction in terms of tabletop, and it would just be nice to have something that isn't Nurgle. Because I am tired of Nurgle, man. Every Warhammer game, barring these very recent ones, like Realms of Ruin and even Space Marine 2 is focusing on Tzeentch, but everything's been so Nurgle focused, it's tiring.
well, Vermintide had that Nurgle expansion thing too. Like,
Yeah.
obviously they had like Norska and whatever, but a lot of it was,
Nurgle, yeah.
things. Nurgle or rats. I would want to play as a rat. That was my thing playing Vermintide. Is like these humans are cool and everything, but can I just play as like Ikit Claw or something? Like a snake style, gutter runner. Just give me like,
The problem is that if you
Even,
played as a Skaven, someone would sneeze and you'd die, like...
yeah, true, fair enough, true. Yeah.
But it's them. Chaos Gate Demon Hunters was also Nurgle. There's just so much push towards Nurgle, which is like, for a game, it's fine. For 5, it's not.
No. It will be cool, nice to see them try something completely new. I think adding in a huge, because I don't know a lot about 40k. Obviously, I know a little bit about like Ogren and that they're just sort of genetically mutated humans because of high gravity and stuff like that. Like I know the basics, but I don't know much about the Tyranids outside of them playing them in like Dawn of War 2 campaigns and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I didn't know anything about these Gene Stealer like humanoid guys and stuff like that. I assumed it was all just like this, like a weird queen-based beehive, like raptor lizard things. Like these alien lizard things. Like they have some phenomenal looking models.
Oh yeah.
Which would be
the Tyranids and the Gene Stealers in general are some of the more complex races, I guess, in Warhammer 40k lore, which is what makes them so likable. I know some people were also trying to, I think there was like forum posts for Darktide and stuff saying, hey, wouldn't it be cool if there was like an Orc DLC where the Orcs invaded? It's like, hell yes, man. Like, I'd love to be fighting Greenskins.
Dude, that would be really fun.
Yeah, and you'd be fighting a bunch of boys, storm boys there, being able to like fly about on their jetpacks. Fucking mega armored knobs would be awesome bosses to fight because we still only have that same boss, right?
And
it's the same thing. You charge in, you take out his shield, let it all out. He replenishes the shield, repeat and repents, and it's just like it's boring. It is boring.
Yeah, it's crazy because I'm not I can't handle repetitivity that well in the in these games. That's why I can't play like card games or any of these very simple, like very one-note kind of things, which have variation amongst them. But like, if it's the same experience, like for some reason, Darktide, the base combat is so satisfying, and like the reliance on teamwork and the base game is fun enough that it's sort of carried it. But it really is hitting its limit at this point. It desperately needs something.
See, I really enjoyed it just because I was able to play with my viewers, because I can't do multiplayer campaigns for Total War. This
well, they don't work.
Yeah, well,
like let's be honest, like they don't. If you don't have a supercomputer and some decent internet, it's gonna have some horrible lag and desync.
Honestly, that 8-player campaign that we did,
dude.
The only reason it was like doable is because we could all bounce off each other and shit talk, because the gameplay was just awful.
Yeah, well, I mean, like that worked sort of. I think partially because everybody there was a content creator with a reasonable PC setup and a decent internet connection. Because obviously we all rely on that. We need that as part of a job.
Yeah.
So I think that was one of the facilitating features. But immediately upon launch, trying to play campaigns, 8-player, 6-player, whatever campaigns with my community members and patrons and like just friends and whatever, they just fall to shit immediately. One guy, from the middle of Eastern Europe with a bad internet connection, and the whole thing tanks. Like you're waiting, everything's desyncing. It does that slow mo shit where you get in game, all the units are moving in slow mo, but you can move your camera around fine. Yeah, it doesn't work. 8-player campaigns just don't work, and it's crazy that that's the standard for stuff in Warhammer 3.
I saw a lot of people screaming in the Pharaoh chat going, why no more than 2 players? Like, believe me, if you didn't play Warhammer 3, you don't want it. Yeah, like
3 or 4 player is passable with good, even like as long as one of you doesn't have a terrible rig, it's passable. But like anything past that, you just don't work. I would have taken a Avatar Conquest over 8-player at this point.
Yeah,
I was hyped when they announced it. I was like, 8-player campaigns are going to be nuts, dude. I had no idea about the technical limitations.
It's pretty sad. I don't know, like going back to Total War, because we haven't really talked a lot about Total War.
Yeah, we circle back. It's been all right.
I don't know, like what do you think is going to happen within the next few months? Because I honestly think at this point, I have a feeling that like Thrones of Decay is going to be delayed, and I think that might actually be the best thing that could ever happen.
I think they're gonna go 0 Dark 30. I hope that means what I think it means, like just silent. I think they're gonna all silent, quiet on the Western Front, and then it's gonna be nothing for a couple of months, and then I think on the run up to Thrones of Decay, which obviously will be delayed. I think, assuming that huge sweeping changes are coming within CA, like they're reportedly half of the staff for their major studios are being cut and all this kind of stuff. It's going to affect it in some way, some capacity. Surely it has to have some kind of knock-on effect.
If all those cuts are true, they'll be cut by Christmas, which is grim.
Yeah. So it's gotta have some kind of effect on the release of this DLC, especially even if they just delayed it. So like, hey, it's not quite ready yet. We're gonna leave it in the oven a little longer. And just that kind of transparency with the community, I think, would buy them a lot, even if it was an inherently bad thing like a delay. Like, as long as they're just communicating, You know what
I really think they should do? Remember, I think it was for Silence and the Fury. They did half a trailer. Remember that? Long time before.
And that a half trailer.
Yeah. So they did it for one of the Warhammer Day events, or it might have been for Skulls, where they released a half a trailer for the DLC, and just basically said it's coming, just not anytime soon. Which I feel would probably be a good way of saying, look, work is being done. Because we can hear the creator, like for example, today I did a video talking about a dev saying like, yes, he's working on Thrones of Decay. That's great. Just show us something, so people can be a bit more pacified, I guess, or at least, just a bit better.
Like if they, I mean, I think I'm maybe announcing who the characters are ahead of quite a long time ahead of it might spoil it a little bit, but if they just maybe teased it or something, or I would be more happy if they just put the DLC in the background and worked on it, hard, get it right, because I still think the Warhammer 3's trajectory is going to depend massively on whether or not Thrones of Decay is a success or not.
Oh yeah,
like truly, I think it's going to have a huge effect, because if they do a really good DLC, they price it appropriately, it's got characters that people actually want and know, with like even half decent mechanics and a good amount of fresh content, especially for races that people love. Like it's gotta be like 50% of Warhammer players, their favorite faction is like the Empire. People are very vanilla, so vanilla, and then outside of that, dwarves are extremely popular, and Nurgle is the number one faction, in my opinion, that needs a drastic rework of their faction mechanics, because they're so unpleasant to play.
And we practically know that it's Tamukan,
who's awesome.
Yeah, he's a big character, he's a big name, Empire, the reason why people like the Empire, by the way, because I know this from like GW stuff, right? Like I spoke to a bunch of people who are ex-GW and current GW back in the day for Warhammer Fantasy stuff. It's like the Empire is is one of the more popular races because a lot of people just like being the everyman fighting against the monster.
Yes. Yeah, that's the biggest argument that I've heard towards it. Like, you know, you being able to identify as a soldier in an organized army and then fighting against these huge mythical creatures and fantasy beasts and stuff. That's the best perspective I've heard of it. Is it's sort of very grounded, and you know, like for me, I prefer playing as the big belligerent dipshits than ogres and you know whatever, like these big wild factions. But I completely understand why people like the Empire and everything, especially because Warhammer inherently, I think, as a fantasy IP is way more interesting and edgy and like a little bit more adult than a lot of RP, you know, like Warcraft is a little bit PG sometimes. I know there's some stuff.
It's incredibly PG now. No, now it's very PG. Dude, they changed the picture of a gull of cleavage, right? Like this is like artwork for a bowl of fruit.
Like, but that's sort of like I love how the humans in you know, they've got skull iconography and this sort of German Reichsguard, you know, sort of theme, this German military, you know, like Holy Roman Empire theme to them and stuff. And like they're a very varied and interesting human faction. Like, you know, especially when you compare it to other human factions in the world, like Bretonnia, who are so much of French dorks.
Yeah.
You know, they're still good. Like but Bretonnia definitely not. Like they're sort of the nerdy Empire for me. Like the Empire, I've got some actually pretty dope shit.
Well, the Empire's got like, you know, the guns and shit, you know, and all the different churches. But a big thing about it is just like, I think people gravitate to Warhammer a lot because it's depressing and it's very dark, you know? Like, everything is out to kill you. If you read through like the roleplay books, literally everything is out to fucking kill you, you know?
It really is pinnacle edgelord fantasy, and I mean that in a really positive context. Like I love how gritty and like rancid the ogres are, and like just these big meat loving like man eater like Mongolian themed like raiders, and like just all like the variation of cultures and factions is just immaculate. Like, from a fantasy perspective, which is why it makes such a good, you know, game.
And then you get into like deeper lore for the ogres to find out why they are like that. It's because the maw is literally making them go insane unless they're constantly eating and stuff, you know? That stuff is what makes it even darker, because it's like they look kind of dumb and it's because something is making them dumb, you know?
Plus, like, but for the Empire, like I think if they nail the Empire and they nail the dwarves, like it could, like people love those factions and it could sell extremely well, you know, like just based on like piggybacking on the fact that it's a race that people have wanted DLC for like, when was the last Empire the DLC? Like
Empire was Wolfheart in game 2, which was what, mid game 2. Dwarves have had no DLC since game 1.
God, since game 1?
Since fucking game 1. They had an FLC Lord with Florek, but
Grombrindal, who was
game
Grombrindal becoming his own faction was just like a thing for Immortal Empires, though, I guess, but he's still they're an ancient faction. The dwarves getting content, Empire getting content, huge factions. It's just, if they nail it, they could really change the trajectory, I think, of the game, especially if they really patch the crap out of the game up to the launch, like really just nail it.
Yeah, but it needs to be, like you said, needs to be a campaign patch and not a multiplayer patch.
Yes, I love the multiplayer side of the game. I don't play it that much. I'm not a very competitive guy. I'm very much like, you know, prefer co-op campaigns and cooperative play and stuff. But weirdly, contrasting that, I love PvP and invasions in Souls-likes and Elden Ring and stuff. I love that. But for, I don't know what it is, strategy. Maybe it's because I'm bad at strategy games. That's probably why. I'm way worse at that. They need to stop. Like, as much as I love, like I said, the multiplayer scene, I love watching Turin's streams, that multiplayer side of it, multiplayer content creators, Colonel Damners, and not Damners. Is Damners a PvP guy? No, he's not, right? I'm thinking of Dav plays.
Dav,
I think
Samurai. I've
like,
only seen Damners do like 2 matches and they were against me.
Yeah, no, sorry, no. The shout out to Damners though, good guy. No, but the multiplayer side of the game is great, but and it is a good vacuum to test individual unit stuff. But that for every hotfix, just unit changes and money cost update stuff, just really little things where and people have been arguing for a shift in balance between the single player and multiplayer because it takes so much time. You know, like where the multiplayer and single player should have separate balancing, and like that's so much more effort. They're never going to do that.
Well, they should have separate teams, to be honest, because they clearly wanted to turn multiplayer into some sort of esports, right? That's why they did this domination mode and stuff like that. They wanted to make it bigger, but they never really supported it and expected the fans to do it. It's like, that's not how it goes, man. Like,
me personally, I think the only way that I would stop playing a shit ton of multiplayer is if they had some kind of avatar conquest in Warhammer 3 or another, or whatever game comes next. You know, it's just an avatar conquest was the pinnacle of Warhammer multiplayer, Total War multiplayer, in my opinion. It was phenomenal. It was so fun. The customization options and the how unique and impactful the battles felt because you had your own custom army. Some battles you would lose, some battles you would win just based on their unit roster. Like it's so, you know, there was no prevailing meta. People just took what they wanted. You know, I mean, obviously you had sweaty people that would take meta. That's always the case. But you know, a lot of people would just take what they liked, and it's so good. Yeah, really, really put it in the players' hands. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the multiplayer stuff with contempt because it's every time it's like it's domination mode. It's like why is this being the norm? Because that was like when you queued up to the ladder, that was like the norm there. It was all domination mode. Then they switched it to at least allow for standard stuff too. Because I just don't like domination. It is gimmicky, and I don't like the gimmicks. Right? It's the same thing with survival battles. It's like why was that a thing?
Yeah. Some elements of them, like I do prefer domination over land battles, for the one reason that you don't have to control your entire army all at one time, and for soup brain people like myself, it's way easier to have a staggered approach to the multiplayer where you're sending units over there and you're doing it. It's like this. There's a lot. It's sort of more tactical in that regard. That you're, especially when you're doing like 2v2s and stuff. But I've never been a huge fan of capture points as a mechanic in any of the Total War games, especially. And I don't know. I'm so curious to know what people think about it. But the mechanic of capturing a point and then that automatically ending the battle after like the timer runs out. Like, I'm the king of the castle. I win. So all of your troops are now dead because I captured a single point. Is insane to me. Like it should be breaking their morale and stuff, or capturing these points for a huge morale advantage, or some kind of, you know, but having to wipe their army, like that capture point thing. I think they've been moving away from it, but I've always hated that, especially when it is in Warhammer 3. Like, you know, there was that bug where Chaos Dwarves, with some of the Chaos Dwarves castles or whatever, they would spawn inside the castle with reinforcements, so you could just walk to the capture point and cap it. Insane. Like,
it's odd. It's one of these things where I'd want to say, does that get tested? And it probably does. It's just they don't have time to fix it, because it's very obvious that they're throwing stuff out when it's not ready, but it's because they might not have time because management says, look, it needs to happen now. Which is sad because it doesn't. I don't want to play when it's in that state, you know. And mods are cool, like I've said, but I use mods to add stuff. I shouldn't have to have mods to fix the game.
I also, well, I'm sort of the opposite in a way. Like most of my mods are always quality of life changes, and like I have my favorite mods is one that removes a lot of the visual VFX. So when you cast a spell on units and they get all those swirly effects around them, or when you debuff an enemy, they have that huge prism of lights around them, so you can't even see them. Stuff like that. It sort of disables all that, so you've just got clean, thematic fights instead of all this glowy, crazy VFX stuff. And I'm sure a lot of people love the VFX, especially if, obviously, it doesn't disable spell effects and all the crazy, beautiful spells, especially the reworked stuff. But yeah, mods for me have mostly just been sort of like polish for the base game, as opposed to adding in completely new content, because you can always tell that it's modded. Like, well,
not soon, because I mean, We've got custom animations. We've got custom everything. I know of some modders who got custom mechanics, and I mean like purely custom, not remade from stuff we've already got. And now obviously we just had the breakthrough for voice acting too. It's insane.
That's a huge thing. Like I tried to make Okoii back in the day for Warhammer 2, and like gave me so much appreciation for the modding community and how technical and difficult it actually is. Like the lengths that I had to go to get to facilitate this mod working that I was trying to make, and the process of trying, like, simple things like retexturing, for example, changing the color texture of something it's such a debacle. It requires coding, it required using new programs and like GIMP Studio, which I haven't used since like 2004, stuff like that. Like just so much whack stuff. Like it's such an impressive thing to do, all for the purposes of just passion and not money, you know?
Yeah.
It's honestly pretty incredible.
There's the scene is so good. I have daily conversations with some modders, and they're showing me updates of stuff that they're doing. And sometimes like they'll show me an update the next day. I was like, how the fuck did you do that in one day? You know, like.
Yeah, it's wild, dude. There's some stuff that I was trying to get sorted that I was hammering away at for hours. I'd go like, can you, like, you know how to do this, whatever, and they'd be like, yeah, you just do this, and this, whatever, and then like I've already done it. Like while explaining it, I've already done it. Like something that would take me like an hour to figure out, looking through all of these FAQs and like figuring things out, they could do in like a minute, 2 minutes. It's nuts.
I've been speaking to like I don't want to like name modding projects that aren't like publicly known yet, but like
yeah, of course.
There's one which is going to be a race pack, and I tell you what, everything I've seen about it is just wonderful, and all the information.
The Fishman.
It's not. I think someone is actually working on Fishman though, but I'm not. Like everyone, there is an Upon mod on the works, right? And
the Fishman and the Pygmies would be an amazing DLC.
Just in case CA wants to add more fuel to the fire. Right?
Yeah. Oh my god, dude. Yeah, that is something. I feel that's the one thing I think you could post to get banned. Like that would get you kicked out of the creator program for sure.
Yeah.
But that's a mod that I wish I could make.
It's one of these things where it's like, because the Pygmy lore is actually getting rewritten. Actually, slowly but surely it is getting rewritten. They've been mentioned
to be less. The models, I think.
Yeah, less.
The lore I have no idea about. Yeah, the models need to be a little less caricatures from the 1920s kind of deal, you know. The
funny thing is the guy who made caricatures, because the fact of the matter is it's not just the pygmies. If you go back into like really old Warhammer like miniatures, a lot of people were introduced as caricatures. He's no longer in GW. He's fucked off to another company. I'm not going to say his name because then people are going to know exactly, or even the company name because people are going to know exactly what I'm talking about, because he's still doing caricatures with that company, which is wild. But like Warhammer's becoming a bit more modern, so they're introducing a few things better. Obviously, there was a lot of red flags for a lot of different races and factions. I mean, originally Araby's god was literally just called Allah, you know. Which you don't do that, you know. I get what like they were trying to do, but most of the early Warhammer developers back in the day were just 30-year-old virgins who have never seen a woman, let alone been outside, you know, and seen the outside world. Which most of them probably still are virgins who have never seen a woman or been to the outside world, just like 60s instead of 30s now, or even more so. But I mean, lore is getting rewritten. Cafe was actually originally written fairly caricature style. It's got a little bit of that. It's still got a little bit of that in this current lore.
I will say the voices for some of the units, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it's like the, you know, Jay the Karasa Bowman stuff. It's like some of the units, you know, it's a certain point it is, you know, an Asian accent. I have no idea how they did the voice acting and all that kind of stuff, but some of the voices, I've said it before in streams, I've said it in the past, like, they seem very caricature-y, you know?
I think that's more because it's not just in Warhammer, it's in a lot of the other Total War games. CA has like an in-house studio that they work with. In terms of voice acting, so it's a very limited pool. Sometimes they go outside, but they don't actually get you know, more of like external talent to bring in, because I think that voices makes the faction, right? Like you feel immersed when they sound proper, but sometimes they just sound really odd. Same thing, like I mean Pharaoh, everyone just sounds like they don't really sound Egyptian, do they?
Maybe it's like because like actual Egyptians have like maybe a different accent. Maybe it's like a modern thing as opposed to like a historical thing. Like I'm not sure. I'm not super familiar with that, but I always use the base like language pack for that culture. So for 3K, I've played 3K since I either at launch or when it was added in, I forget. But the Chinese voiceover.
Yeah,
Because
it's much better.
Yeah, because yeah, because the accent thing, the Chinese accent thing probably would have, like, I've heard people playing it in English and it just sounds a little goofy to me, but if it's in full Chinese, like I've even learned a little bit of Chinese just from seeing the subtitles read to the dialogue that gets read out, you know, like that you hear all the time. You pick up little phrases and stuff, but it's just so much more, immersive when they speak their own language. You know, that especially like it would be great to see that in like Rome 2. You know, if or something say if they made Medieval 3, and you had like English, the English spoke English, the French spoke French, fully French, like no English anywhere. You know, Middle Eastern culture spoke Middle Eastern. Like if they're doing voiceovers and stuff for the game, because usually they obviously dub it into different languages and stuff. Like that would be a phenomenal addition, I think, in terms of immersion in a historical total war. I don't know if that would be a lot more work, but you know,
probably a lot more work.
Yeah,
I totally get you. Like we've seen those little leaks of suspiciously added leaks of Dogs of War, right? And if that is what they were doing just to kind of pacify everyone, which I think is a pretty dirty tactic, but then again, it's something that does make a lot of sense. If we get a stallion troops and so on, I'm expecting them to sound kind of like me when I speak Spanish, because I'm in the region of Andalusia, you know? I don't want them to sound like Manuel from 40 Towers.
Yeah. The caricatures can be a little bit charming, I guess. Sometimes, like it makes like genuinely some of the Cathay voice lines make me laugh. Like actually make me laugh. They're so over the top. Like maybe people are desensitized to it, I guess, or whatever. It's just like that's the norm. Like, and sometimes I don't notice it, but some of them are so silly sounding. Like for certain characters and stuff. It would it'd be like, are you sure that the Dogs of War would be, are you saying that would be the Empire section of the Empire section of the upcoming thing?
No.
A subfaction of the Empire?
Shadows of Change, the Shadows of Change DLC, the patch alongside it introduced commits for 2 characters that are from the Dogs of War book, Borgio the Besieger and Lucarenza. And basically what happened there is that was intentionally put in to pacify. The way I see it is that was intentionally to put in to pacify the fan base, going, oh, look, there's a shit show with Shadows of Change right now, but eventually we're going to get Dogs of War. And even I got a little bit hyped, because I was like, I've been hearing rumors with Games Workshop and Dogs of War, and you know, Dogs of War would be kind of nice for Warhammer 3, especially if we had, you know, Talir, Stalia, and Araby done as mini race packs. And so I feel like it's something that they wanted to do down the line anyway, because it is the last remaining army book now. That's the literal last army book. So
you say that they'd be their own faction, though, or a part of the Thrones of Decay?
No, not Thrones of Decay.
No. Yeah, because I've heard that Amelia von Draken or whatever, is that her name? Or like
Elsef.
Something. Elsef von, but I that she would be the character for the Empire DLC. I feel like I don't know a ton about a lot of the characters in the Empire thing. I think a good FLC for that would be probably Boris, right?
Yeah.
Like an additional on top of like, because he's already in the game. If they just make him playable as an additional part of this Empire update, I think that would be.
But if we get a Middenheim character like Boris Todbringer, they would also need to introduce FLC units. And I feel like that could be possible as a way to apologize for the recent shit show.
So that's what I mean. Like,
yeah.
stuff to win the community back a bit, you know? Like,
Because if I'm going to play Boris Todbringer and I don't have Tutagen Guards, Warrior Priest of Ulrich, and Knights of the White Wolf, I will fucking scream.
yeah, no, Knights of the White Wolf, I didn't really know were a thing. And playing with them in, what's that game called? Modheim? City of Modheim, whatever, like the strategy Warhammer title. It's Modheim City of the Damned, something like that.
You couldn't play as a White Wolf though.
Could you not? Is that
No.
Modheim City of the Damned? Yeah. Was it not a White Wolf, like the Empire guys with the White Wolf hoods?
Oh, you could probably get hoods and stuff cosmetically, but like essentially what the Knights of the White Wolf are just like Reiksguard, but with gigantic fucking hammers.
Right.
It's just, it is the knightly order of Ulrich, and obviously that's where Boris is based, right? That's where the main church of Ulrich is and stuff.
Yeah.
But like Elsef, I've heard similar rumors, and the fact of the matter is, if we do get Tamokan and we don't get Elsef, I will rage possibly as much as we did with Shadows of Change, because they have the literal best campaign book. The Thrones of Chaos book was literally the best campaign that Games Workshop have ever released, and they need to follow that story. Not bring in your own story. Like, don't get me wrong, sometimes the writers at CA can do great stuff, but if you have the framework and you have everything literally written out for you, follow the goddamn fucking story.
Don't pull a Game of Thrones season 7 or 8. Just stick to the source material.
Yeah.
Stick to the source material, guys.
Still pissed off about that.
Yeah, we can't get into that, man. I could talk for about that for fucking hours.
Yeah.
It's the only...
Though on one mention, there's supposed to be like a Jon Snow TV show, right, or something?
Oh, I have no idea. I didn't even watch the Game of Thrones, the other Game of Thrones thing they released.
Oh, House of the Dragon, you should. It's really good. Like, holy shit.
But I just don't care about that. You know, I didn't even like Daenerys. You know what I mean? Like, I hated Daenerys in that show. Not my jam.
I will say that it is fairly well written, and they do keep to the source material. There's changes, but like they're the minuscule changes. Nothing that nothing that drastically changes anything. You know.
That's good. I think we must have learned their lesson with the last couple of seasons.
Right, anyway, it's not the same writers.
But who do you think the dwarf guy will be for this?
Realistically,
I've heard the Bugman guy mostly.
So I've been like pushing Bugman myself in my own speculations, because he can be anywhere. The fact of the matter is, he could have a fairly unique campaign where he doesn't build but has undercities, and it seems that yeah, because Bugman's story is his brewery was destroyed, and now he's going on like an absolute genocide against every greenskin, right? So he could literally have a story focused around hunting down orcs across all walks of the world, and building bases inside of allied bases. And the fact is, like, we've got this, right? Where we've got undercities, coves, the cults, Zinch's ones now for the changeling. Like, CA really likes using that mechanic. They're like, yes.
Yeah. I will say I wasn't a huge fan personally of the changeling campaign. It's not how I like to do campaigns. Like, having no real territory, but sort of on being in amongst the territories of other factions is an idea I don't hate. Like, I like a campaign that isn't just kill everyone around you, maybe ally with a guy, one person maybe, but just kill everybody and just expand in all directions. It is nice to see campaigns like why I'm a huge fan of Warriors of Chaos, because it's just go on a Pokemon spree of vassal collections and wipe everyone out in the meantime until you have this legion of sub factions, which is pretty cool, because you never really have allies in Warhammer. The diplomacy is obviously not a big part of it.
So I think it's going to be Bugman, and mostly because there was a hint that we're getting someone with a toolbox for a legendary hero. So it's like they're not going to do 2 engineer characters for the dwarves, and there are 2 engineer characters I can think of, obviously Malachi and Grim Berlickson. So it's like they'll have to do something different. Horde, pseudo-horde style dwarf faction would be kind of interesting, because they're just trying to reinvent the wheel. And Bugman is cool. Like, he's so famous, he's got his own literal bar at Warhammer World, you know?
Yeah, it would I didn't like the mechanic with the taking back Carragate Peaks thing.
That was awful.
With
Yeah.
with this, hey, have your upkeep cut in half and not be able to recruit decent units and shit, and then just traipse through the desert with the slowest imaginable faction. Then it was just not like that was not a well thought out. If you were like a hold faction until you conquered it or something, you didn't have the upkeep debuffs, and it was like a pilgrimage to get to the location, that would have been something, you know, instead of slowly having to push in that direction. It's a very unsatisfying mechanic. If you have that freedom to just wander around like a horde faction, but with some really fun mechanics, you know, like that could be good. If your purpose is to specifically hunt down just greenskins, that would be pretty good. Like, you know, like you gotta go wipe out Grimgor, you gotta go wipe out Azag and stuff, you know.
Problem is that
it'd be interesting.
It would be like the Changeling, where you've got like a specific mission to do, and then someone else kills the, you know, it's like,
oh god, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why a lot of people just didn't like the Changeling. That, and you can't really lose, which, why would you add in a campaign where you can't lose?
Yeah, wild.
It's odd.
But I'm not a huge fan of Siege anyway. It's not really my jam. It's like, out of the 4 Chaos Gods, it's probably the one that I'm the least hyped about. I dread to say Slanesh when you're surrounded by your beloved Slanesh. but yeah, no, I like their Nakari's mechanics of vassalization.
Yeah,
I'm a huge fan of that in Total War games and stuff, like actually having allies, because it happens so infrequently with most factions. You know, like especially in Total, like in Warhammer Total War, because everybody hates each other. Everyone's racist. You know, it's just racism, the game. You know, like
that's what Warhammer's been done. Like the idea was everyone hates each other. This world is the most inhospitable thing ever. I think it's what brings Warhammer above a lot of fantasy settings, is the fact that I see it a lot, right? Like every now and then on Twitter you'll see, oh, what would you be if you lived in Warhammer Fantasy? And everyone's like, oh, I'd be a Reichsguard, stuff like that. It's like, dead, bro.
You'd be dead, yeah.
I'd walk outside, see some fucking Ungor or Bestigor have an asthma attack and just keel over right there, you know? Like,
it's like that. You see those like forums and stuff, and like especially years ago when like The Walking Dead was really popular and stuff. People like, what would you do in a zombie apocalypse? You'd be like, you'd be a fucking zombie, man.
Yeah.
Most of us would be a zombie. That's the point.
But there's always one guy who always says, no, I would end up taking over the world and shit. It's like,
I get my mole cop katana and fucking like slay my way through hundreds of adult men with zombie powers, like whatever. Yeah.
But I think we're gonna have to call it a day, because it is almost midnight for me, and I have a very early start tomorrow. Dude, thanks again for taking part in this.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the community has been really enjoying the interview series, because I think it's nice to see everyone come together and actually talk about this, you know?
Yeah, they pop up in my recommends occasionally, so it's a good way to get to know content creators as well that you might not have, know much about. It's a really good series.
Yeah, I've been really enjoying it. It's been nice being able to chat to my peers, because I tend to stay in my corner, which is probably not the best thing for me, but yeah.
Yeah.
But with all that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.